Existential Crisis Hotline. The Existential Crisis Hotline. The Existential Crisis Hotline. The Existential Crisis Hotline. The Existential Crisis Hotline.
Hello, everybody. Let me cough first before I say anything. Welcome to the Existential Crisis Hotline. How's your existential crisis going? Smoothly? Would you like help with it? Would you like some real purpose? Would you like to know the meaning of life, why you're here? Well, I've got the answers. Does that sound implausible? Does that sound arrogant if I say that? Well, you could have the answers too. Hey Owen, I see you in the chat. What's up? How's my audio? Sound good? How do you like that new intro song? I thought it was pretty good. All right. Well, I've got a lot of really cool stuff to share. I'd love to just jump into it, but I don't know if I should wait for anybody else to get in the chat. Anybody else there? You want to say hi just so I can kind of see if anybody else is ready? I know Owen's ready. He's like, I'm here first. I'm ready to go. Let's not wait for anybody else. All right, I'll just jump into it. Oh, okay, we got Sandra there too. What's up, Sandra? All right, let's get into it. Man, got some good stuff tonight. Sometimes I just like to throw things up here and then like figure out how it all fits together. It's kind of fun. And I was talking to someone earlier today, and they were saying that they were watching some of the streams on the replay on YouTube, and they really liked, what I was saying. It was making things make a lot of sense. That was pretty cool. So I know a lot of people will watch it later. When I'm president, people will come back and watch these. I'm sure they'll clip everything I say out of context. So that's okay. It's all right. Clip some of the good stuff too. All right. Man. I got some interesting stuff. I'm going to build some context here, just like I do every time. And it's all going to make sense by the end if you stick with me. And I originally, when I posted about the live stream, I said we're going to talk about, I forget how I phrased it, but basically like discussing atheism and what are its limits and what are the alternatives. And we're definitely going to get into that. But I want to go a little bit beyond just that. So if you came for that, don't worry, we're going to get into that. But I got to build up to it. Right? I can't just jump right in head first. You got to warm up a little bit. So the first thing I want to show you is this clip from the Danny Jones podcast. This guy who, I'm assuming from what he says that he's Muslim. And it'll make a lot of sense as I build towards kind of the grand finale tonight. I'm going to play some very interesting stuff. A person that I had not heard of before. And now that I have, I've been kind of deep diving into some of their material, and it's quite fascinating. It's kind of like, when I went over the Thomas Jefferson stuff about how he didn't actually believe in God and all this, and it was like blowing my mind because you didn't learn about that in school. Kind of along the same vein. Okay, so let me start with this. Let me switch it over, see if I got it set up. Yeah, okay. So I'm just going to play it, and then I'll stop and make comments, obviously. It's only 5 minutes, so stick with me.
It's very painful. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I never want to talk about these things, but I know where it all goes, bro. It goes to Armageddon. It goes to a war that's going to make World War III look like a joke. It goes to the annihilation of the majority of this world. It goes to, I believe it's going to go down that path. Mm. We're not going to be the superpower anymore. There's something also known as Gog and Magog. It's in the Old Testament.
Oh, yeah.
In the Quran, it's called Yajuj and Majuj. A very evil people that take over the entire earth. and they create chaos. And only Christ defeats them in the end with the power of God.
Where are you going if America falls?
I don't think we survive, brother.
What?
I think red flashes. I don't think we make it out of this. There's no mentioning of this place anywhere in the scriptures, bro. Yet how many signs the Prophet Muhammad gave that came true? He said, soon the shepherds of our people, the Arabs, they're in the middle of the desert, nothing there, will compete with one another to make buildings that touch the sky. And when one builds one, the other will say, I'll make one even bigger. We're all the greatest skyscrapers in the world. These are his words, Danny Jones. You tell me how an illiterate Arab in pre-ancient Arabia, okay, illiterate, could have known that specifically.
Well, if you study Destiny, you can answer that question pretty clearly.
He said that men will marry men.
Wait, what's the answer? Is it Dubai or New York?
It's Dubai, bro.
It's Dubai, yeah, that's what I thought.
And Mecca, Saudi Arabia, they're building massive towers. They're going back and forth. Qatar, Dubai. Okay, they're building the biggest structures on earth in the same exact place that he said it would happen. How did he know? How did he know if he wasn't?
Well, maybe the people that are building those towers are reading the Quran, trying to fulfill a prophecy.
Danny Jones, there's a lot of prophecies. One of them was, the time will come where people will place instruments, musical instruments on their ears.
He was like, well, maybe they're just reading the Quran. He's like, well, fuck yeah, those guys definitely are reading the Quran. Okay. They're following a script. Okay, got it.
And they will dance into the night.
Is he talking about the dancing Israelis?
A lot of prophecies. One of them was, the time will come where people will place instruments, musical instruments on their ears, and they will dance into the night. How did he know? He described headphones, bro, towards the end of time.
That's pretty wild if that's true.
Such a random detail to put in your prophecy.
All of the minor signs.
And people will drink they'll take a popular ancient drink of that's green, made from the leaves of a tree, and they will add milk to it, and it'll be served in these establishments, and it'll become very popular. And like, bro, he was literally predicting matcha lattes.
Signs, and I invite the audience, study the end of time signs in the religion of Islam. All the minor ones have happened. There's only the big ones left. And what are the big ones? The Great War, the appearance of the Antichrist, the return of Jesus Christ, peace and blessings be upon him. When the great signs start, it is too late to become a believer in God, because you didn't believe without the signs. So my message to the Christian...
You didn't believe without the signs. Okay. So God's going to hold that against you. You should have just known which book to read. The Bible? No, the Quran. Oh, well, fuck, man. Like, how was I supposed to know?
Audiences, we both believe Christ will be king when he returns to the earth. We both believe in one that will claim to be him and to deceive humanity and lead them into the fires of hell. He will be a man that only has one eye. Why is it that all the elite use that symbol, Danny? How did the Prophet Muhammad know? Because he's the only one that ever said it. I will give you a sign of the Antichrist that no other prophet has given his nation, that he will have one eye.
Put in the chat. Who do you think he's talking about? I would suggest that the one-eyed monster is God. Or a money system. Look, in God we trust. One. See the eye on the top of the pyramid? I mean, we all know it's there. The guy who wrote the book.
But God does not have one eye.
Oh.
That was the one description that the Prophet Muhammad gave to all of humanity.
I guess I was wrong. Yeah, it's Dan Crenshaw. Dan Crenshaw is the Antichrist.
To all of you that are watching that don't believe in God and don't believe in religion and don't believe in faith and don't believe in end times prophecy, the closest to the Muslim is the Christian. I say to you, if you survive what's coming next, if you survive, if a man comes that starts doing miracles, which I think he will use AI with.
Oh, do you guys catch it?
That's the weapon of the Antichrist. What did the Prophet Muhammad say? He will have one eye. A-I. How many eyes did he have? He only had A-I. He only had one eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he said the word in Arabic, which the true Quran is in Arabic, which is a different word than I. One eye, AI, it's just a play on words, but he definitely was talking about AI. The thing is, I think everything he's saying is true. He's actually telling the truth. So I can't really talk too much shit.
He's building Skynet over our heads, bro, and we're cheering him on. Yeah. Skynet, bro. Starlink over our heads, bro.
I mean,
There will be nowhere to escape. Crypto takes over. Dollars on its way out. All fiat currency. That's why America has to fall. This is a global agenda.
It's the final.
I don't know if it showed up on the screen or not, but Katie said, America has one eye, Islam has one eye, Christ has one eye, Judaism has one eye, capitalism has... Shit. Socialism has one eye. Profit has one eye. iPhone has one eye.
Act.
Oh yeah, you're right, Sandra. The prophet knew that it'd be translated into English.
They need America. America was the hitman to set up the board for globalism. And now what does the mafia do? Once they take out everyone, they got to take out the hitman. We were too busy enjoying our beers and bitches and football while they were building this system.
Bitch has one eye. Katie says zero. My name has 0 eyes in it. Maybe I'm the second coming. You'll find out.
And our rights were being taken away from us as Americans and people of the West. And the UK is horrible right now. Australia is horrible right now. They can't even speak certain things.
It's
They
crazy.
get arrested.
It's insane.
So I ask you as a Westerner, and I as a Muslim who lives in the West,
Muslim has one eye.
I love this nation. I could go live in those countries. I
Nation has one eye.
don't want to live there. I want to live in America. I like being next to non-Muslims and people of different cultures and religions. There's been nothing like this on the face of the planet. So we're losing our freedoms. We're losing our rights.
Right has one eye.
So our time is running out because now the globalists, they
Time has one eye.
don't need us anymore. And they want to
Globalist has one eye. Okay, I'll stop.
wipe us out because now our freedom, Danny Jones, is standing in the way of their master plan. We don't have years left. We have
Bible has one eye. Okay, last one.
months left.
I hope you're wrong about that.
Months left, in my opinion. God knows best. I think there's going to be energy lockdowns and chaos and mayhem and total financial collapse. And I've been not just saying it now. I've been saying this for a couple of years now. I said this on your show. I said this on Julian Dory's show. The only other person that I'm like impressed with that I've seen speak this way is Sam Tripoli. I got to watch Kurt's episode,
How many eyes does Tripoli have?
but I know he knows his shit too because I listen to him on Jim
Shit has one eye.
Door a lot. So these are people that are awake.
No, they're not awake. They are asleep. They are asleep at the wheel. I want to show you guys something. All right. Just like a little nice little segue. I pre-planned this, okay? So, all right. So here is, let me make this one. Okay. Here's my Facebook, okay? What is happening here? I'm going to move that up. Okay, so here's my Facebook. All right. Hold on, I got to check the chat. He's been saying there's months left for years. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so here's my Facebook, all right? Filters, year 2009. So the longer you've been saying this, the more awake you are. Okay, bear with me. 2009, look at my post from December 22nd. Equal money system. Process to self-willed equals. Equal money system. Structural resonance alignment. Equality song. Bernard Pullman. What's the problem with God? Free will allows for evil. What? Destiny has one eye. Fuck! Shit. Destiny eye process. Well, that's 2 eyes. 2 eyes. So. I mean, I'm just saying, like, I've been saying this Look what I said. Evolution is the realization of equality. December 2009. Right? 2009. I could go back to late 2008. Okay, so, just saying. I've been saying it for a while. This guy just barely fucking woke up. He's been studying Quran his whole life and didn't figure it out until a few years ago. It's been obvious to anybody studying Destiny since the moment they started studying it because it's explaining all that. And I'm going to give more context than this guy, too. Okay. So, enough of that guy. But he's talking about Islam, right? So I just pulled up a random one about Christianity talking about the apocalypse, okay? So, or the Gog and Magog and blah, blah, blah. So let's watch this one real quick, 1 minute.
This message should scare you and wake you up.
The Bible says that this attack at the end of time will come on Israel from the north and the south, and that will be the final war, the war to end all wars that will usher in the end of time. Now here's the question. Are we entering into that war right now? In Ezekiel 38 and 39, it mentions nations Gog and Magog. That would be like modern day Russia. It also mentions Persia in Ezekiel 38 and 39. That corresponds to modern day Iran. What we do know is that if Iran enters the war, that Turkey and Russia will probably go with them. Right behind them will be North Korea and China. And if all of the world powers start attacking from the north and the south, start trying to attack Israel, that could be the war to end all wars.
Israel has one eye.
That ushers in the end.
So you have to
of
understand
history.
that we're in that time. We are there right now. He's talking about all the stuff, the war in Iran, all the stuff that's going on. Listen, we're coming to the time. It could happen today. It could come next week. You better be ready. You better be ready. And you better be sold out for Jesus. Because if you're not ready and you're not
You better be sold out for Jesus.
sold out for Jesus, you will be left
Why is he sold out?
behind. People are, I don't believe in the pre-rib tribulation. Well, I have all authority upon the earth, and the devil can't take over all authority until I leave because the Bible says so. Think about that.
Dude. Holy shit. You know what? I gotta switch because this might be a clip. So the Muslim guy said that in the Bible, or sorry, not the Bible, in the Quran, it says that the Antichrist will come and they'll have only one eye, right? What's the only word in the English language that has one eye? It's I. So, if you don't get... like, think about that. The problem is the I. That's the problem. The I is the Antichrist. Consciousness itself is the Antichrist. All right. I'm going to go through a couple random things first, and then I'm going to get to the meat and potatoes. So I just saw this. I haven't listened to it yet, but there's a clip of J.D. Vance saying that he doesn't think something is aliens, they're demons. I just want to hear what he says.
You gonna release all the UFO files?
We're working on it. It's funny. When I came in, I was obsessed with the UFO files, and then you start getting really busy worrying about the economy and national security and things like that. But I've still got 3 more years as vice president. I will get to the bottom of the UFO files.
Okay. Have you peeked? Have you done a peek?
What about the Epstein files? Yeah, I was so obsessed with it in the beginning, but you get busy and it's just like there's more important things to do.
Have I what?
Have you done a peek? Have you
So I actually haven't. I
the
have
full
not.
Independence Day.
I have.
Guys, it's like yeah, it's an interesting topic, but I haven't even really had the time to kind of take a peek or anything. I just UFOs, like who really gives a shit, right?
I have not been able to spend enough time on this to really understand it, but I am going to. Trust me, I'm obsessed with this. I've already had a couple of times where I'm like, all right, we're going to Area 51. We're going out to New Mexico.
You can't talk about Area 51, bro. That's illegal.
We're going to sort of get to the bottom of this.
Remember when Obama said it? And then Trump said that was like classified information? Well, I don't know. Maybe the vice president can say whatever he wants. I don't know.
And then the timing of the trip just didn't work out. But trust me, anybody who's curious
Why do you think trust me so much?
about this, I'm more curious than anybody. And I've got 3 years of...
He's more curious than anybody. He could literally go at any time he wants to Area 51 and look at the fucking files or whatever the hell it is. Like, he's like, guys, you don't understand. I'm so curious. Like, oh my God, I'm so curious. Like, I just can't wait. I'm so curious. But, you know, I'm also busy. But I'm so obsessed. Like, more obsessed than any person on the planet. Really. Like, there's some pretty obsessed fucking people about UFOs. And you're saying you're the most obsessed person. And you're literally, like, okay, take the actual most obsessed person. Obsessed over UFOs, and then tell them, if you want, anytime, you can go check out Area 51. Do you think they'd be like, yeah, I know, but I just got a lot going on with my calendar?
The very, very tippy top of the classification. I'm going to get to the bottom of it.
Okay, so you haven't been to Area 51
So he's at the very tippy top of the classification.
yet.
Not
Okay.
yet.
Some
Not
people
yet.
say they keep the UFOs in Ohio. You know, they might,
Yeah, Hangar
I can't tell if they're being sarcastic or not.
18, Hangar 18,
right
right?
under your nose the whole time.
I've heard that as well, but I don't know. I haven't looked into it yet.
Okay, all right. Well, we're waiting for it. We saw aliens.gov.
And you know me.
We saw
You know me.
aliens.gov.
I don't think they're
Yeah.
aliens. I think they're demons anyway, but that's a longer discussion.
Well, I can't let you go without a follow-up on that. Because Barack Obama is on this podcast, and he goes, yeah, aliens are real, but, like, here's where they're not. And, you know,
I did not.
And so Obama says,
I didn't
yes,
hear that
aliens
one.
are, he gets asked point blank,
He
aliens
didn't-
are aliens?
He didn't hear that one. Yeah, fucking right.
Oh, yeah. And then he goes, but they're not at Area 51.
That's not what he said, but anyways.
And
Well,
that's-
where are they?
Well, that's what he says. Right. That's a great question.
I need to
Trump
see
had to
this-
go save
I
him,
need
and
to
he
see
said
this
he's going to
podcast.
declassify.
Okay.
So you think they're demons?
Well, look, I think that celestial beings who fly around, who do weird things to people, I think that the desire to describe
Is he talking about aliens or angels?
everything celestial, everything is otherworldly, to describe it as aliens. I mean, every
Yeah, that's a good point, Kate. If you were truly obsessed, you would have jumped on Hailbop when it came by.
great world religion, including Christianity, the one that I believe in, has understood that there are weird things out there, and there are things that are very difficult to explain. And I naturally go, when I hear about sort of extra natural phenomenon, that's where I go to, is the Christian understanding that, you know, there's a lot of good out there, but there's also some evil out there. And I think that one of the devil's great tricks is to convince people he never existed.
One of the devil's greatest tricks was to convince people that God exists, actually. So put that in your Area 51 and smoke it. All right. So Julia McCoy, she does AI stuff. If you watch her videos on YouTube, it's literally just an AI talking, but it looks like her. So all her videos are an AI generated thing. And she's saying, dude, these flies. It's like that season of the year where the flies are breeding, and they're just like, if you open the door for a second, they're in there. They're in the room. Yeah, the adults are not in the White House. Yeah, exactly. So here's Julia McCoy. Here's what no one in the AI conversation is saying. This isn't just a technological shift. It's a spiritual one. You see, like, bringing in the spiritual shit again? Here we go. For the first time in human history, the machines can handle the survival work. Which means the humans are being forced really, back toward their actual purpose. Creation, connection, consciousness. Are you sure about that? The ones fighting AI are fighting their own liberation. The ones embracing it, they're becoming more human than ever. So she's saying it's a spiritual thing and AI is the answer. The other guy's saying it's a spiritual thing and saying AI is the Antichrist. Which the fuck is it? I'm not here to sell you on AI. No, like, literally, that's the entire point of your channel. But okay. I'm here to sell you what's on the other side of it. Mornings that belong to you. My mornings belong to me, and I rarely use AI anymore except for, like, making music. Work that comes from your gifts, not your desperation. A body that's healing instead of breaking. Like, this is such AI slop, by the way. A mind that's expanding instead of shrinking. That's the life AI unlocked for me. So much so I couldn't even write my own fucking post. And it's available to anyone. willing to stop mourning the old world long enough to step into the new one. What does this person say? Mornings that come from you didn't come from AI. I came from a decision you made about how to structure your time. AI was the excuse to make the change. The change was all available. Yeah. Good shit, man. People who need to hear stop mourning the old world are not the ones struggling with the transition. They're doing fine. People struggling aren't mourning. They're calculating. Can I learn this fast enough? AI didn't unlock a new life for most people. It unlocked a new question. What is my value now that the easy parts of my job are automated? Yes. It's forcing the existential crisis. That's all it's doing. It's not freeing you. It's just forcing you to like consider, what the fuck am I doing here? Why do I exist? Well, AI is going to give you an answer, but you're not going to like it. Okay. And then I got this guy, which I don't want to watch this whole thing, but this guy, Thomas Campbell, I read his book. He has a book called The Theory of Everything. And it's all about trying to prove that reality is like digital rather than physically real. It's like a digital simulation. And I just saw this post, which I didn't watch this video, but he says, we are also God. We are all also God. We're pieces of that larger conscious system. Consciousness is awareness with a choice. Free will is necessary for consciousness. If the future, not true. Consciousness is a program of perception management. It's not free will. If the future is a done deal, then there are no choices. See, the problem is consciousness and awareness are two different things. Okay, so anyways, I just like this comment. No, I didn't like it, but I wanted to talk about it. That's why all outcomes have to be possible. From the evilest evil to the goodest good. You can't eliminate any of it, or you eliminate all of it. There is no Garden of Eden utopia state unless you give up free will. You don't have free will. You're in a computer-programmed physical reality where your choices are curated and presented to you, and you're stimulated to make some of those choices. There's no free will in any of it. That doesn't mean you can't. Let me be clear. When you're accepting yourself as consciousness, there is no free will because it's a program. When you're recognizing yourself as life itself, then you have freedom, but you're still constrained by the system you live in. But the question only is, it's not, see, when you say free will, it's like you could do whatever you want. Well, no, you can't. You can either do what's best for all, or you can do anything that's not best for all. If you do what's not best for all, there's consequences that are not good for you, that come back and restrict you even more. So it's not really a free choice. Like, your choices aren't free. And this idea that you can't have free will unless there's also evil makes no fucking sense. What if everybody just choose only to do good things? Like, then there wouldn't be evil. Unless you believe evil is some kind of force that exists somewhere. Or is it just people exercising their choices in a way that aren't best? That's all it is. What if everybody just agreed, you know what, let's be done with doing evil shit? We would still have the free will. Nothing's changed from that perspective. We just wouldn't be doing evil stuff. Also, are you okay with people doing evil shit? Like, if there was a person coming along to murder your child, would you be like, well, gotta take the good with the bad. Do whatever you want. Or would you be like, no, I'm going to stop you from doing that. And if you do it, I'm going to put you in prison or execute you or whatever people would do based on the laws. Like, why even have laws at all? Like, just do it. Just, here's the thing. Nothing in this world currently is actually good. It's all going down to the Gog and Magog battle. It's all heading towards a collapse. It's all heading towards an end. It's all heading towards immense suffering and abuse. So where's the good? Unless you imagine in some other realm of reality there's the good thing out there. And then you're like, well, but if we just followed that, we would do good things. Then just fucking do the good things. But where are they? The good thing to do would be to create a system that's best for everyone, so everyone has what they need, and people would have less reason to do anything evil. Which means we're going to have to stop some people from doing evil shit, even if they want to. Just like when if your child's about to hit your other child in the head with a hammer, you're going to fucking stop them. You're not going to be like, well, they have free will. No, you're going to intervene and restrict that person's free will. So what is the argument here exactly? It's nonsense. It's total bullshit. It's not real. It's nonsense. That's the point of the story of Moses and the rod, which is paralleled in all the ancient stories. You can't exile the evilest evil. You have to put it in plain sight. Name it. You have to contain it. Be aware of it. Do not ignore the depths of human depravity if you also believe in human... What is that? What is... The poison is the medicine is the poison. Everything is nothing. Okay, you're fucking retarded. I said everyone could just make choices that are best for everyone of their own free will. There's no need for good to exist only because bad exists. And then I said, then why are there laws at all? Do you want to allow anyone to do anything that is possible? Free will in this context is an excuse to not determine what is acceptable and what is not, and to hold people to that. The way to do it is without constantly resorting to force only is through education. Man, that guy has some common sense. Okay. I'm just debating whether I should go to the meat and potatoes, as I call it. But I also have this blog from Bernard. Maybe I won't read all of it, but man, it's hard not to. It's not really that long, actually. But it's about cause and effect. Okay, so maybe I'll do this because probably if you're going to stick around for a while, you might get a little bit too fatigued. And this might be too heavy later. So let me just kind of jump into it a little bit. Maybe I won't read all of it. Excuse me, but there's probably some good stuff. I forgive myself that I have accepted and allowed myself to not see that in the effect, the cause is reflected as equal, and in the cause, the effect is both as equal. I forgive myself that I have never allowed myself to pause to reflect on the cause in the effect, as I as a human have okay, I'm misreading it. I forgive myself that I have never allowed myself to pause to reflect on the cause in the effect I as human have on the world and my fellow human being. So in other words, the effect you have in the world becomes the cause of something. So if you're allowing a system that doesn't give everybody what they need and support them effectively, you're now the cause of that lack, which then becomes a world in chaos, which you're only looking at the effects of it. And you're not considering what's the actual cause of the situation. And so then people come up with all the ideas about, well, it's because of free will, and it's because of, God, and we this Garden of Eden, and we sinned, or whatever. And it's like, no, the cause of the effect, like they're one and the same. Like they're not actually separate from each other. The effect of people not having what they need is not caused by us falling away from God. It's caused by the fact that we're not taking the responsibility to get them the fucking stuff they need. It's that simple. I forgive myself that I have accepted and allowed myself to refuse to see that if I live for effect, regardless of the cause, so effect also you could look at it in the context of the experience of something. If I live only for the effects of something, like the experience of something, regardless of what that causes, and regardless of why I'm doing it, the cause will have side effects. As my desired effect never holds in mind the totality of the cause required to produce the effect, as demonstrated by the reward system that caused the rotten child, the rotten soul, and the rotten love. And those are references to other blogs that he wrote. I forgive myself that I have accepted and allowed myself to refuse to see that real science should consider cause and effect that supports all life, and not just the effect of profit and power, as that narrow-minded effect will cause side effects to ripple from the rotten core of self-interest. So a lot of, and I talked about this on a previous stream, but it's like, it feels like the situation on Earth is so complex, all of the problems, but they're just stemming from root causes, which is self-interest, the interest of yourself only caring about what you experience. And that goes back to what we were saying earlier, that the actual Antichrist is the I. Not that the I inherently is bad, but that you're only within the consciousness of yourself, you're only considering your experience. That's what consciousness is. It's like a bubble that insulates you from all of reality, which you're actually one and equal to. But it's like you're temporarily able to believe you're not, like you're just an individual, isolated form within reality. This practically means that the cause and effect must balance on both sides of the equation as what is best for all life. Or side effects will happen that cause and effect harm to some. Thus, any harm means that the cause and effect is unbalanced in fact. And this is the problem with a lot of our education here on earth, is that we say people are poor. Oh, that's because they didn't, work really hard. Or, hey, without capitalism, like everybody would be poor. And it's like, that's not true. We could just work together as equals and create technology and distribute resources and systems and create systems that manage the resources in a balanced way that make sure everybody gets what they want. It's like, no. Oh, if there weren't any greedy people that want an amazing life only for themselves, like everybody else would be poor. Because look how stupid everybody is. See, like they're not willing to do it. They're all dumb. It's like, well, no, that's an effect of the fact that we don't have an education system that equalizes everybody's understanding of the system at least, but also all of reality. So then you have inequality, and then people take advantage of that. And if you look at the vast majority of consumer products that capitalism has created, they all end up being used to control you. It's like you think it's for your benefit, but it's actually to control you. I forgive myself that I have accepted and allowed myself to refuse to see that each one as me, as individual, are at root cause for the effect we have on life, because we define effect as self-interest without considering the side effect caused regardless of the evidence in our face throughout the history of human existence. We define effect as self-interest without considering the side effect caused. I forgive myself that I have accepted and allowed myself to refuse to stop causing side effects of destruction and hatred. For as long as we are on the receiving end of the positive effect, we claim in our own mind that we must be acting in acceptable ways. It's like, if you go back to like Professor Zhang, the Chinese guy, and he explains that for lack of a better word, elite, they believe that God is with them. They believe that they are blessed by God, and because that's why they have money. And what does everybody say when they're blessed by God? When something good happens to them, they're blessed by God. How come when something bad doesn't happen, you don't say you're blessed by God? Only when you get the positive out of it do you say you were blessed by God. If something bad happens, you say it was the devil. See, again, you're attributing causes to things that are not real. But from the perspective I was making earlier about the dollar bill and the eye and everything, like money is the representation of self-interest. Not money itself, but the current unequal money system. The way in which we accept the purpose of money, which it represents energy, and energy and self-interest are the same. Like your desire for positive experience is just energy. So you desire to have the positive. And so you accept a system that sometimes you get positive and you don't look at what the side effects are because of that. Like for you to be able to go to Walmart and pick out any kind of chocolate you want, a lot of people have to have a really shitty life. At some level, somebody's getting fucked over. Because there's no way they're putting that chocolate in this money system in a way you can afford it when you haven't created anything of value in this reality, and yet you get to have chocolate fun experiences in your life while some people starve. But you don't see how it's all interconnected. That it's the total system that you're accepting. So we're accepting the total system as is because sometimes we get positive rewards from it. But we're not considering what are the negative side effects. And we just ignore those. And then we have religion that comes in people's minds going, oh no, all that negative effects is because of the devil and because of Satan and because of the deception of the enemy and all that. And it's like, no, it's the very same system that gave you the positive reward is also creating the negative. Maybe I'll just read one more. I forgive myself that I have accepted and allowed myself to refuse to see the effect of debt as the cause of our economic system will have the side effect of global suffering to which each individual with money have a direct cause. Global suffering comes from the fact that we have a debt-based money system. It's not because of capitalism per se. Capitalism is just taking advantage of money as debt. Think about it. Money is not real. It's literally just the creation of a debt. The creation of somebody owing you something. That's all money is. So But is it done in an equal way? Like, okay, you've done this for me, and therefore I owe you something equal in return. No, it's like, you want to have a house? Okay, become a slave for the rest of your life. But somebody else has a house where they're fucking billionaire because they inherited $1 billion from their parents. And they sit on the board of trustees, and they go and they fly in their private jets here and there and controlling everything so that you can never get out of the debt slavery. I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to refuse to understand that cause and effect will follow each one even after death. Just we cannot see there with our limited senses. So you don't understand that what you're accepting and allowing now in this life is going to follow you into the afterlife, and you have to pay for it there. Pay for it meaning you're going to have to face it. And you're going to have to realize you didn't change it. And you're going to have a lot of regret. It's not like you're going to go to hell. You're just going to realize, like, oh, fuck, I didn't change anything. The afterlife is not this amazing place where it's all bliss and happiness and ponies and rainbows. It's literally just you being aware of all the actual shit in this world. Because right now within your consciousness, you can focus on the positive, ignore the negative. When you die, you can't do that. You don't have this kind of mind consciousness where you can just ignore everything. You have to see it all at once. Imagine you see the details of everything you accepted, whether it was indirectly or not, the entire total system, all the suffering that it creates. And this is not me, like, again, ignoring the positives that are going on. I'm not against positive, but it's not being done in a balanced way. It's not being done in a way to ensure everybody has the positive. And I'm not a communist. Fuck communism. Like, it didn't have the answer. It was still playing within the rules of debt-based money. I forgive myself that I have accepted and allowed myself to refuse to see that to justify the effect as caused by God, as many religious claim, is only a way to serve our self-interest and to numb our senses, to be deliberately oblivious to the suffering our self-interest caused. So if you want to read the commitment statements, Day 22 on Bernard's blog, Creation's Journey to Life.blogspot.com. Go to the timeline and click Day 22, and then you can read the rest yourself. So, what I want to do next, I was just setting the stage for this, because this is so fascinating, man. And like, this is a woman named Madeline Harris. No, not, is that right? What was it? Madeline Murray O'Hare. The most hated woman in America in the 60s. I had never heard of her. And I just realized there's this whole, like, world that I was not aware of. In like, okay, how do I explain it? It's like, you know what it's like? I remember watching a documentary about David Koresh. Do you guys know what I'm talking about, David Koresh? He's the Branch Davidians, Waco, Texas, right? It's kind of like 9/11. Like, you just, okay, they said some Muslims crashed into the towers because they hate us, and okay. And then you, like, start digging into it and watching things and considering things, and you're like, oh, it's not at all what they said. Now, it doesn't mean I know what happened, but clearly it's not what they said happened. JFK, just start looking into it, and you really start digging into it, and you're like, oh my God, dude, like, it's not at all what I thought. Same thing with Waco. If you look into it, you're like, dude, this was nuts. Like, the government murdered those people, to put it bluntly. And I don't know all the context of why necessarily, but it's kind of like when you look into, what's that other crazy dude from the 60s? The cult. Dang, what's his name? I cannot think of his name right now. Candace Owens was going on about him in that CIA mind control book. Why is it? Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. You know, the women carved, like, the crosses or whatever it was in their forehead, or swastikas or something. Damn. I could look it up, but I don't want to. You probably know who I'm talking about. Charles Manson. Damn, that was crazy. Okay, that took a while. Charles Manson. when you look further into it, it's like, I'm not sitting here saying he's a great guy. I'm just saying there's a lot more to it than just like, it was a crazy cult and they just killed people. Like, there's way more government and everything involved there. It's nuts. And LSD and all kinds of shit. Okay, so this was kind of like that for me. Meaning there's like a whole context of the 1950s and 60s where somebody being an open atheist was like, people were like, what the hell are you? Like, what are you talking about? Like, you're nuts. It was like unheard of in a way. And it's hard. And the reason why I think that it kind of blew my mind, it's not that I was like surprised per se. It's just like when you actually see the reality of it, like read the Thomas Jefferson letters, for example. It's like, oh, it's not at all like how we were told. And so, and part of the reason why it was difficult to see that before was because now we have this new atheism movement, and it's like all these science people like Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris and some of these guys. So it's like we have an idea of what atheists are and what they think and shit like that. But as we go through this, I'm going to play probably the vast majority of it and make some comments. Also, if you watch the live stream I did on where we talked about Jordan Peterson, like this guy right now that you're seeing on the screen is like the Christian in this debate between between him and Madeleine O'Hare. And he argues a lot like Jordan Peterson, even when he starts talking about God. And so it was so funny because I'm like, you would have thought that I already watched this when I was talking about that stuff on the other stream. And I had never seen this before. But she's saying a lot of really interesting things. And especially when it gets to the point where she talks about sort of her own personal sense of ethics and like her own sense of morality, to use the term loosely, and what our society could be without us relying on God and religion. It's really, really cool to hear that people were saying things like this clearly back then. So I'm just going to let it play a little bit and then make some comments here and there.
Now, both have gone to some trouble to come here, and we're grateful to them. Mrs. Murray Mrs. O'Hare has the flu, and we're delighted that she could come, and Dr. Bauman flew all the way down from Washington to come. We'll begin by putting the subject under discussion to each of our guests, asking each to give us a brief statement of position in answer to the question, is atheism the religion of the future?
Organized religion and traditional religion is dead. Not alone their God is dead, but everything else is a rotting corpse. It's this simply because it is not relevant to what is going on. I find that the progressives and the liberals do one single thing. They coat the pill differently so that it can be accepted. But when you have it and you're hooked again, there it is, and it's just as fundamental as those weird old tales of the Old Testament, and it is just as irrelevant. Instead of throwing the whole thing out and starting anew with human values and human goods, all of the religionists are tied psychologically, emotionally, traditionally, historically, to these ideas that are no longer valid to the human community.
Mrs. O'Hare, as I understand it, I've only just now had the privilege of meeting her, is ultimately concerned about certain issues of separation of church and state, the integrity of the belief of persons, the relevance of any kind of belief in today's world, and this really becomes her God and her religion. And now I understand from what you tell me that a church has been established, and so she's on the way to becoming institutionalized as a religion, which would seem to me to be, this is the way all religion has gone. I'll be the first to admit that, and now this religion is going the same way.
I'm gonna explain some context real quick. She is also gonna give context, but just to make sure it's clear, because I don't know how much anybody watching this will pick up the context just from what she says. As far as I understand, and again, she will explain some of this, but it's like she had a foundation about atheism, and she did the necessary steps to form it as a quote-unquote religion. Because at that time, and she'll explain this, like, I think even Scientology existed back then, because she references it. All kinds of different groups, including like Scientology and obviously all the Christian churches and so forth, they could, because of their religious status, have tax exemption. And therefore they could take in money, not have to pay any tax on it. And that's what allows them to grow beyond what a normal organization. It's like they're not even really playing in the full capitalist game. And so if she has to play to spread the fact that she wants to say like people shouldn't believe in God, then she's at a disadvantage. So she's trying to play in the rules of the system and say, okay, you want me to call it a religion? Fine, I'll call it a religion, and it'll be the religion of atheism. Fine. But she'll explain it's in some way a facetious point, but also because she understands, like, she's also, I don't know if she finished law school or not, but she went to law school. I listened to an interview of her just telling the story of her life. It was super fascinating. But she went to law school at the very least. And I think she was one of the first women, especially in Texas. She's from Houston. I don't know if she's from Houston, but she lived in Houston. And she went to South Texas College of Law, I think, which is like, I have a relative who went there. And she was one of the first two women to go to that college. The dean said, I'm not going to even let you graduate. I'm going to make it so hard. No, she did graduate. But the other woman, she said, didn't. You can look up her history. But the reason it's relevant is I'm saying she was in the Army at one point. Like, she's super, like, from an IQ perspective, like a very intelligent person who can like look at systems, understand how they work, and then try to figure out the ways into it and navigate it. So I'm just saying that context as it wasn't like she's like, yes, I have a religion too, and I want to be is like, she's like, well, the playing field for my ideas it's not equal. Like, my ideas are so contrary to the culture that the only way I can spread them is if I get an equal footing. And she says, like, she'll talk about later, at that time, she couldn't buy an ad in certain newspapers, certain magazines on TV to talk about her ideas. So she's saying, like, her ability to exercise her free speech is not an equal right because they give special status to these religions. And so you can go and have a religious program on TV, no problem, but you can't have a program that's talking directly about atheism or pushing back against religion at that time. So I just want to give that quick context to clarify his remarks there, but she's going to talk more about it.
I ran across a pertinent, knowing I was coming down here for this evening, I ran across a pertinent comment by Vincent van Gogh, the artist, who said on one occasion that I cannot bring myself to believe in God, but I find that I cannot live without believing in something beyond myself. So the only question, if we're really going to communicate, is not whether there is a supernatural being or a God. It's simply the God of your life and the God of my life. Does the God in whom we believe make sense? Now, the one...
You see the trick there, that little slippery slide trick? It's the same shit Jordan Peterson pulled on that Jubilee debate, where he's like, well, I mean, if you define God as the thing you care about most, no one's an atheist. Everyone believes in God. And I'm like, is that what you fucking mean by God, dude? Like, is that what you mean by God? If you're going to try to expand the definition to include the thing you care about most, okay, you got me. I believe in God. But I don't believe that there's a supernatural being in some realm that created all reality, that dictates the rules of what's right and wrong, and that if I follow him and believe in him, that everything will work out for me. That is bullshit. And so she'll make this point again later. It's like, yeah, if you're going to play with words like that, then what's the point of even fucking talking here? So he's just trying to sort of defeat her position right away by being like, you're not really an atheist, which is just bullshit.
One other thing I want to say.
Just like a man. He.
Right, this is the other thing I was going to say, and that's beautiful. To me, the God of the Judeo-Christian tradition is the God of all people.
Why does he say Judeo-Christian? Why not just say Christian? What does Judeo have to do with it? Judeo is a separate thing. They're two separate things. So it's like this weird thing they do.
I happen to believe that in certain historical events recorded in a book called the Bible, he revealed himself in a definitive way, but he has certainly revealed himself among other people also, and loves these people just as much.
Owen asked, when is this? It says the 60s. I don't know exactly, but sometime in the 60s.
I would be the first to admit that the idea of a judgmental God is very dangerous and unhealthy. The German psychiatrists have a word, incidentally, ecclesiogenic, to describe the neuroses caused by the church and by religion. I'd be the first to admit all of these things, but this is a sign to me of the greater need for what I believe to be the basic truth of the Judeo-Christian tradition, namely that God is ultimately for us, that which is beyond ourselves, there is a power, there is there is a force beyond ourselves, is ultimately for us. And my life simply doesn't make any sense apart from it.
Do I understand you correctly, then, that if there's something that's important to Mrs. O'Hare, then that's her God?
No, I did not say that. I say that which is of ultimate concern to her would be her God.
Isn't Hitler religious? Boy, did they pursue their ultimate concern.
Yes, this is what I'm
this
saying.
kind of a definition exclude me out. I'm not interested at all in having
But you can't
Tillich's ultimate concern
But
given
you can't
to me.
exclude yourself out under this definition.
Yes,
You're
I
in.
can. Please, believe me. We all accept those definitions which we desire to accept when they are responsive to our own inner needs, etc.
Do you hear that? Like, dude. Like, who is this person? She's like, you can accept the definitions you want to accept. Like, holy shit, dude. Versus what is the... And I'm not saying she fucking understood everything and, but that's a pretty revolutionary idea, actually. You can accept the definitions that you decide to accept. There you go. Like, that means we can go through every word and decide what definition do we want to accept for that word. And I'm not saying like, oh, we can make dog mean cat. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying, what does God mean? What does love mean? What does life mean? What does reality mean? What does loving your neighbor as yourself actually mean? Like, does it mean you just give to charity, or does it mean you actually look at every single being in reality as your neighbor and you figure out how do you love them in fact? Would you say someone loved their child if they didn't feed them? You would say, no, they don't love them. So if there's any child going starving right now, that means you don't love that child. So how are you loving your neighbor as yourself in this moment? You say, well, I don't have the resources to, feed every child. I'm like, yeah, exactly. A system could do that, though. Let's change the system. Well, no, that's not our place. That's the Antichrist. That's the beast. God's going to solve that. Like, yeah, exactly. So you're defining things in a way so you don't have to take responsibility.
And all that the liberal or progressive theologian does is to draw the circle so large that he entraps the person who does not care to be identified with him.
Yeah, but the beautiful thing about this is the very position...
That it lets you carry water on both shoulders.
No.
The fundamentalists love you and the progressives say, isn't he brilliant?
Do you know any fundamentalists that love me?
I think so. They understand who said they certainly aren't on the side of the atheists.
No, the beautiful...
Real quick, Edward Bauman. Oh, no, I don't want it to do that. I clicked look up and it gave me like the Apple dictionary definition. Maybe I should put doctor. Oops. Reverend Dr. Edward Bauman, 54. Okay, this is probably that guy. Yeah, that's probably him. Obituary. Let's see. Systemic theology from Boston University. Methodist Church, right? Methodist. That's the key. Methodist. What does that mean? It's a Protestant Christian tradition stemming from the 18th century revival movement led by John and Charles Wesley within the Church of England. Grace and salvation. Methodists emphasize God's grace, which is available to all. They believe in justification by faith and the opportunity for entire sanctification. And I think at that time, this is my assumption, the Methodists were the more progressive version of Christianity. So her point that she's making is, he's not like the super hardcore fundamentalist, like gays are going to burn in hell kind of people. He's more like the more inclusive. And you can see the way he said a judgmental God creates neurosis. And I think that that's not really the real correct view of God. But then he says Judeo-Christian. So you still accept that view of God in a way, but we need to go beyond that. And so she's saying like you cast this big circle so you include everybody. So because you're talking about God and Jesus, you'll get the fundamentalists on your side against the atheist, right? So I think that she's really smart at seeing through like what the person actually is doing. I feel like I was going to look something else up. Oh, yeah, I guess I will. I'll just make this point real quick. James Tallarico. I don't know if you heard about this guy yet. Texas state representative. I think he might be running for Senate or governor or something. Yeah, he's running for Senate here. And the Democrats are eating this guy up. But he's saying a lot of weird stuff about Jesus and God. He's like saying God doesn't have a gender. And now you see Pete Hegseth is like saying some really weird stuff about wishing he was dead. Jesus loves, Christian nationalism kills. Okay, yeah, but Christian nationalism. So it's like the Democrat Christian bringing in the Democrats. It's like they're trying to use the Christian thing, right? Does that make sense? Like they're trying to. It's like right now the Republicans have the Christians like by their Bibles. And so the Democrats are bringing this guy up who's a Christian. And he's like, God loves all people. Trans, God is not even a gender. God is beyond gender. So like, let's not even talk about what gender, like, you know, because the Christian fundamentalists right now, or the Christian nationalists are on the side of like anti, transgender, transphobic type of thing, right? So he's coming in to bring in the Christianity, which is also inclusive to the leftist, liberal, progressive ideals. So it made me think of that when she said that point about this guy Bauman, because I think he kind of played that role in some kind of capacity back then. Because they didn't bring a hardcore like Christian fundamentalist to debate her, where like she could make their ideas look stupid. They brought in like the Jordan Peterson type, who's like, oh, and we can talk about God in this broad way, and Broadway, like in this like larger sense, right? Like you can. You're not stuck in one narrow lane. You can bring in somebody who can kind of make it so inclusive that kind of anybody can get on board with it. And I think with this Democrat, James Tallarico, even the non-Christians and the atheists, progressives can get on board with him, because he's like saying all the stuff they agree with. And they're like, yeah, your Christianity is so inclusive, I don't really have a problem with it. Where they'll never get on board with the right-wing Christian fundamentalist evangelical side of things. And I had this. Oops. I don't want to set it up so I can show this screenshot, because I have to do all the stuff in my little OBS program. So I'll just show it here in the camera as best I can. Okay, you can't read it. Maybe you can. I'm going to read it to you, but just so you can see what I'm reading. It's an article saying Texas Senate nominee James Tallarico is stepping into a theological firestorm, doubling down on his conviction that God is beyond gender. And then the little blurb says, beyond human limits. James Tallarico reclaims the image of God in a bold Senate campaign for the soul of Texas. And I sent that to like Drake and Mitch, and I was like, this guy's gonna bring in the fucking transhumanism shit. Like, it's like, again, just like I was talking about on my deep dive in transgenderism to my deep dive on transhumanism on one of my previous streams, explaining the point of like how it, like the transgender leads to transhumanism. You can see already they're like, oh no, God is beyond gender. So it's like bringing the God point in, but then they're going to add the AI to it. It's just, I don't know how to like articulate the details of how I see it, but it's like an intuitive thing of like, this guy somehow is going to play a role in that, of bringing the trans progressive side into some kind of idea of God. You add the AI into it, transhumanism, and there you go. Okay, so I'm going to get back to the interview or debate.
The thing about what you're saying is the fact that that position which you have just espoused is Madalyn Murray O'Hair, as I understand it, and you are ultimately concerned about that. So I'm simply saying that
I reject Tillich as...
I'm ultimately concerned about people not believing in God. Oh yes, well that is your God then. Okay.
A madman.
How did Tillich get into this?
His ultimate concern. I reject Reinhold Niebuhr and his total involvement as madness.
Good.
I certainly reject the Judeo-Christian religion, and I think that every Muslim in the world would be appalled at the fact that you take Jesus Christ as a standard for them.
Then reason is your God.
No, because I will not permit you to define what an atheist is. I will tell you, because I am the atheist.
Good. Well,
it's that simple.
It's like when I talk about best for all or equal money system, be like, well, you're a communist. No, fuck you. You don't get to say I'm a communist. I know what communism is. It's not what I'm talking about. Right? Best for all, that sounds like some kind of dictatorship. You determine what's best for... No. It's not what I said. That's not what I'm standing for. You're putting words into my mouth. You're putting labels and stuff because you want it to be something bad. It's not at all what I'm saying. Oh, you're against God because you want to be God or something. I'm like, no, that's not what I'm saying. If I said, for example, you are God and I am God, and they say, oh, you think you're God, huh? You think you're the ultimate dictator of reality, huh, guy? You think you're the most important top dog? I'm like, that's what you think God is. That's what you are saying it is. That's not what, if I'm saying I am God, which I generally don't say, but if I were to say that, that's definitely not what I mean. But unfortunately, the only thing you can conceive as something greater that's more important than your little fucking self-interest, the only thing you can imagine beyond your self-interest is God. So I'm trying to go beyond the word and say there's something in a way more than that, but it's not something greater than us, but it transcends your limited idea of what God is. That's life. That's what life means.
You tell me, I'm listening.
When you say that an atheist is a believer in something because it's a double negative, which was your cute introduction, this is incorrect, and you know it. And what you're trying to do is pass over, in a facetious way, a very important position of many, many people.
No, I would really like to know what an atheist
is a person who does not accept your ideas of theism and your hierarchy of theism. Now, in relationship to the fact that we are projecting atheism as a, quote, religion, end quote, this has to do with decisions of the United States Supreme Court, with court decisions in the United States, because in many states, in Michigan, in New York, in California, in the United States Supreme Court, in many federal district judges, and in 3-court federal judges, these people are saying that atheism, humanism, ethical culturism, Scientology, belly button gazing, that all of these are religion, and that these are all tax exempt. And this is the thrust of what we're trying to do. We're saying, all right, if all nonsense is tax exempt, then we will pull ourselves within a definition of this legal nonsense in order also to be tax exempt and take the traditional tax cut that the religionists have taken unfairly against the masses of American taxpayers up until now. It's a play on words. It's deadly serious. At the same time, it's facetious. And I was hoping that everyone in America would realize this, and I think that most people have.
You've just given us a very beautiful statement of what you believe, and all I'm saying is that this is your religion, not just for tax exemption purposes.
The idea of putting an appellage of God onto this absolutely horrifies me, because your religion, your Judeo-Christian religion, and your God has been exactly what has been manifested in history. It has been murder and hatred and fierce dogmatism.
I like the way she said that too. Like, your God is what has been manifested in history. But again, remember the cause and effect point that Bernard was talking about in that blog. You look at the effects, you say God is the cause of all reality, and then you look at the effects. The vast history of humanity is a lot of war, a lot of suffering, a lot of nasty stuff. That is God manifest. That is the manifestation. Here's another key point to consider. The fact that in the 1960s, this woman was considered the most hated woman in America because she's an atheist. What does that tell you about the entire history of the world up to this point? That the vast majority of people believed in God or gods. So all the history is done by all the people who believed in God or gods, not by the people who are the atheists. So what you see as history is the manifestation of God. It's not the manifestation of the devil. There's no devil here. There's just human beings that act upon their beliefs. That's all it is. So I think she's making a really cool point here.
Intestine warfare, cruelty, rejection of people, anti-sexuality, degradation of women, debasement of the intellect. You are exactly what you have been represented to be for years. And you can't beg off and say, oh, well, those people really weren't Christians, because now, 2,000 years after the fact, we're going to define it in a different way. We're going to define it to take in the good people, atheists.
But you've just
How
given,
dare you?
You've just given a very beautiful list of reasons why I happen to believe, from my own experience and point of view, the Judeo-Christian God is so desperately needed.
The Judeo-Christian God's been in charge for the past 2,000 years. Plus. So now he's suddenly needed even more. Because look at the fact that the world's been run by Judeo-Christians. And look, that's why we need him even more. Like, it makes no fucking sense.
These people who call themselves Christians or identified with the faith were not truly representing what he had revealed in Jesus Christ.
They represented it exactly. They represented Jesus Christ in spades. The intolerance, the hatred, the schisms, everything down the line. This man never talked once about the love of a woman. He never talked once about beauty. He never talked once about the reasoning capacity of man and man's ultimate concern with those things that are necessary to an orderly and a just life. He never once used the word justice. He never once used the word harmony. This man was horrendous, really, a despicable person, and no one should hold him up to be anything to anybody.
I don't know what gospel you've been reading. Must be very different from the one I've been reading.
I mean, dude, where was the lie in what she said? Don't just say that. Like, okay, show her where it says harmony. Show her where it says justice. Like, you're just lying. It's like, no, because I've interpreted it to mean something wonderful and great. It's like, okay, you're one guy that interpreted it that way. Other people interpret it differently. But also, your interpretation isn't even the actual what it says. It's just like something you're making up now.
You've apparently been reading a very different Bible than I have.
Well, I have been reading exactly what you have written, and I am talking about. I use the word "you" generically. I would cop out of saying that you had written it too, if I were you.
No, I'm listening with great interest, and I think it does require some sort of response on your part, her representation of the gospel.
Well, the thing that concerns me is that she is doing the very thing I would sure she would acclaim that the fundamentalist does, of reading the scripture to fit her own preconceived notions.
How can you do otherwise, dude? How can you not read something to fit your preconceived notions? Unless you're being totally self-honest, which you're not if you believe the conclusion of there's a God. You didn't even question that from the beginning. Did this guy actually really question, like, does the concept of God make sense?
And we have to understand that the Gospels...
Nobody else does that.
No.
Actually, it's funny because when we went through the Thomas Jefferson letters on a previous stream, that's what Thomas Jefferson actually said and did. He was like, you need to read this without your preconceived notions. And when you do that, you'll realize there's a lot of bullshit in here.
I'm agreeing that we...
If you read it as, this is truth, so I'm just learning the truth, that's not reading it without your preconceived notions. You're assuming it's true to begin with.
All do it. But you have accused the fundamentalist of doing it, and all I'm saying now is that you are doing it from your point of view. The only way we can ever communicate from our different points of view is to try to be open to each other, to say, this is how it looks to me from where I have come at this point in my life, according to the tradition in which I grew up, what I have accepted according to reason, common sense, and so on. And then
you've had 1,600 years to make your Jesus Christ work.
No, but you had thousands of years before that to make atheism work.
No, we didn't.
You see that bullshit right there? You had thousands of years before that to make atheism work. There was never atheism ever in the fucking history of the world ever. Because look, an atheist now, people are like, what the fuck are you? An atheist? You don't believe in God? How is that possible? Like, show me one time in history where they didn't believe in God. Okay, maybe it wasn't the Judeo-Christian God, but it was gods. It was some other thing. Like even fucking, what's his name? Tutankhamun or whoever, the Egyptian pharaoh, believed in God. Like, come on. I think he was the guy, was it him or somebody else that was like the first technical monotheist?
You certainly did.
No. I think that you know, and I certainly know, and those persons who have read history know, that every person who ever had an idea was either slaughtered or imprisoned by the religionists from the time immemorial.
One of the scriptures that you mentioned, however, that bothers me so much is the statement about Jesus and reason. He took a law from the Old Testament about loving God with all your heart and soul and strength, and he added to it to love God with all your mind. He was concerned about the very thing that you're concerned about. And the thing that troubles me so much...
And then he said, if anybody doesn't do this, there shall be weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth. I've usually been overcome by the teeth in the New Testament.
Well, you've been talking about the weeping, wailing, and gnashing of teeth that has been brought upon our society by people who are unreasonable. You and Jesus are talking about the same thing at this point.
Please don't include me with the man.
It's exactly right. The thing that concerns me so much about your statements is the fact that you are generalizing the very thing you accuse others of doing. You are generalizing yourself. I would admit that there has been a conflict of religion and science.
And I will say, obviously, that I don't think her conception of Jesus is correct, but I also don't agree that anybody's conception of Jesus is correct from the Bible. The Bible is a misrepresentation of Jesus. So she's only speaking to the Jesus that's represented in the Bible. So I just want to make that clear. I don't think Jesus actually was a bad guy, but the person of Jesus who's represented in the Bible in itself is not a good person. Is not leading anybody into anything that would create an actual world of harmony, peace, equilibrium, balance on earth. He's somebody that character is someone that leads everybody into worshiping of one superior being. That is not the actual real Jesus. I'm just being clear about that. However, that being said, I can agree with what she's saying because she's talking about the character that's presented.
So I would admit that there have been many followers of the churches who have been unloving and unjust and so on, but to put them all together would be as unfair as for me to say all atheists are well, whatever they are.
I think that the thing that is most important to understand is the intolerance. This is the single thing in Christian religion.
All right. And
the intolerance of any other viewpoint. When you used an introductory statement here, you used an introductory statement here to wish Jesus Christ and Judeo-Christianity on the Muslims, on the Taoists, on the Buddhists.
No.
And you pointed out...
Did I say that?
No.
You're saying that.
Let's bring
then back up and say then that this is not the only God. Back up and say that this is not the only Savior.
Dude, I think she's so clever, man. Because she's like, all right, you didn't say that, so then say it now. Say now that you don't think Jesus is the only God, then, for everybody. Say that. And he's like, well, okay, I mean, you know.
Back up and say you will accept Gautama. Back up and say that you will accept
Well, what do you mean
Fatima,
accept?
instead of Jesus Christ. You will do this.
Let's give him a chance to do one.
Do one.
Pick one. What I'm saying is that there is one God who has created the whole universe. She loves all mankind. He, she, it. This power, this creative power that has brought life into being is equally for everyone.
How can God bring life into being? If life has to be brought into being, then God would have to have been brought into being, unless God is not life. And if you're going to say God is life, so am I. So are you. Just because my physical form has to be brought into being, because just like a car has to be brought into being, but it's the materials were still there. So this physical form had to be formed out of the earth. What is it that makes it alive other than you? You're the one in the body bringing it to life. So God is not this one being out there that creates life. God is just life itself, which is not separate from you. It's the belief that thing is separate from us, that it's causing all of the problems. Because then you have hierarchies, then you have judgments, then you have opinions, and you think some people in certain life forms are less than you, undeserving of what you have, and you go into conflict with each other. And what I'm saying is the goal, if the goal of Christianity or any religion is to create peace, then the only way to do that is just to recognize the equality of life in all beings, and then let's support that. Why do you need God in the picture? Unless it's just like, well, it's just, that which makes everything exist. Okay, fine. But is that what people believe God is? Like, really? Is that what they think they mean by God? Because then they'll argue with me that what I'm saying isn't possible. Because only God can do it. I'm like, well, there you go. You see, you've created as a separate point that has all the power. You are powerless, just like Bernard was saying in the blog. Like, you are not taking responsibility for the causes and the effects.
It has revealed himself in the Buddha, in the Quran, and many other places. I happen to believe, partly because of the tradition in which I grew up, partly because of reason, partly because of common sense, partly because of my own experience, that the revelation that came through certain historical events.
How is that common sense? Common sense shouldn't be based only on your particular upbringing, your particular set of circumstances, your reason only. Common sense is based on that which we can all sense in common, which is the physical reality. We cannot sense God in common. It's not possible to. That's why there's so much disagreement about it. And that's why I'm saying continuing to think that God is somehow the answer is never going to solve the problem of creating heaven on earth, because you can't sense it. There's no way you can use your senses. You say, well, I also use the books. I can sense a book. I can sense that there's a Bible there and I can read it and I can use my reason. I'm like, but it's just a book. And you got to look at the whole historical context of how it was constructed. It wasn't God just went zap. And there's a recording of him doing it. You can see he just went zap and there's the book. Like, that's not what fucking happened. People wrote it. Do people lie ever? Obviously. Do people have hallucinations? Obviously. Is there a much bigger context in terms of our system and consciousness that can explain where these things come from? Absolutely. But it doesn't hinge upon there being a fundamentally supreme, superior being that exists. Any more than the fact that this cell phone, this smartphone existing means that whoever is behind it is some kind of superior being. Just because it's very complex and I couldn't have done it myself.
Here we go back to this history again that we do not accept. I don't know really that any atheist would accept the historicity of Jesus Christ or any really
I'm not asking you at this moment to accept it. All I'm saying is that I accept it.
He's like, based on certain historical facts, it's just like, I dispute your historical facts. So you can't claim them as true because you just choose to believe a historical fact that can't be proven. Like, Jesus was resurrected. It's like, well, how do we historically, you can't prove it. Well, Paul saw him. Well, actually, he heard him after he blacked out or something or got blinded by some light. He heard him and said that Jesus talked to him. So we know he came back. Oh, and also he went and talked to 12 people after he died. And they said they saw him for real. And they touched his wounds. They saw him okay. If that's your standard for evidence, there's just as much evidence that the Quran is true.
And that from my point of view, this gives me a clue
problem
or key to interpreting the meaning of life as I say it.
Man way up here. I would like to direct this question to Mrs. O'Hare. Basically, the question is supposed to be, is atheism the religion of the future? Now, Dr. Bowman has been attempting to find out exactly to what you are committed. It is very easy to tear down something. Premises are easy to tear down, but it is quite difficult to build one that has any reasonable foundation.
I am trying to say that I am committed to life and to living now. I am committed to reason, rationality, and to the ability of man to solve his own problems, seek his own solutions, find his own faith in his own activities, and to do this free of any encumbering dogma, so that he doesn't have to drink any wine, chew any wafers, sing any hymns, get down on his knees, genuflect, go to church, put so much in the till, that he is capable of doing this from an inspection of the cultural values that are around us constantly and which flow in every direction. We can be eclectic. I go back to Madame Curie for this value. I go back to Clarence Darrow for this value. I go back to someone else, Mark Twain, for this value. I go back to Thomas Alva Edison for this value. And putting them all together, I can see where we could have a fine, rational, distinguished, and organized way of living that would give absolute circle of individual freedom around each person, and that we could do away with these. We do not need prayer. We do not need an idea of a continuation of our personal identity after we are dead in some sort of a miasmic condition out there. We do not need to say that we are inferior to some other idea that is seated someplace, some it, some thing, some entity from whom we draw our substance. We can draw our substance simply and only and beautifully from ourselves. And
dude, facts. Like, where can you draw your substance from? From yourself, because you are substance. Like, you are it. You're the thing right now in reality that's alive. You're here. What? You can't even get outside of this bubble of your own mind anyways. But you're looking for something else that you have to use your little bubble of your mind to observe or to think about or to reason or to believe in. And you, no matter what you experience, if Jesus walks in the door, I want you to do something for a moment. Just look at the room that you're in, wherever you're at. Just look at it for a moment, okay? You're looking at a 3-dimensional virtual reality projection. When you're looking at reality, when you're feeling things, when you're touching, when you're tasting, when you're hearing, when you're seeing, all of that experience itself is your mind. I'm not saying it's not real. I'm saying you interface with the physical reality indirectly through your mind. So if Jesus walks in the door and talks to you, you're still experiencing that through your mind. So you can't get outside of your experience. So even if you choose to believe in a God that you can't perceive, you can't say the book is the source of that information, because you still have to use your mind, which is partly your reasoning, but it's also your feelings, your experience, to interact with that. And you have to, within yourself, decide that's the thing I'm going to put my belief in. Because if I gave you the Quran and I gave you the Bible and I didn't give you any context and you had to decide which one was true, maybe you would choose one over the other, but God's not telling you which one to choose. You're deciding which one to choose. You're accepting that that one is the true one. And that's all she's really pointing out, is like, you are the source of whatever it is you decide, no matter what. Even if there is or isn't a God, you're the one deciding. So if that's true, then God doesn't really help you. Because even if God says, here's the things you should do, well, is that the reality we live in? That there's only one version of one God that's telling you what to do, and that when you apply it, you can see immediately that it produces benefits that are best for everybody, including yourself. Is that the reality we're in? Or is there a multitude of different gods, philosophies, religions, etc., that all point you in some way to some truth that that stems from the idea that it's not coming from you in the first place? There's only one thing like that, which is destiny. Because it is not a belief, it is not a religion, it is simply helping you understand that you are the source. You are the one that decides what you accept, what you allow. And you can't blame anyone else for what you accept and allow. You can see the limitations that are around you, but then you have to say, well, even within those limitations, whatever they are, and perhaps even my perceived limitations, I could go beyond potentially, but even within the perceived limitations, will I still do what's best? Or out of self-interest, will I focus on just what's best for me? And you try to get out of that trap somehow, or that, not trap, but you try to get out of that responsibility for that decision by saying, well, no, I follow God because he's the answer, he's the truth. No, that's you pretending that your responsibility is out there. It's really just you projecting it out there, and you're deceiving yourself. Because you're saying, I'm not the source, it's God. But you, as the source, are deciding that that is the God. So you can't escape this choice that you have to make within yourself. And I'm saying fundamentally, believing that and deceiving yourself into thinking that that source is outside of you is a trap that will always lead to the side effect that there's going to be inequality. And that will eventually come back to bite you. Her name is Madeline Murray O'Hare.
The lives that we live can be the kind of lives that human beings should be living. And right now, you know, even the cows are doing better than we are.
Many of the things that
Because
Mrs.
literally
O'Hare is
saying it to them.
speaking about, living in the now, being alive to life now, are the very exact same things I'm concerned about. And all I was saying was, I cannot find these meaningful or meaningfully apart from this God of grace who I have experienced in this particular way.
You can't find all the stuff that she just said apart from this God of grace that you've experienced personally. Why not? Why? So what if you found out one day that this God wasn't real? Then suddenly you're like, oh, I don't have any meaning anymore. Or would you be like, well, I guess I have to find meaning in something now? Like, you realize this is like a self-deception that this guy is participating in.
And you must predicate that on a historical person someplace
Well, we
in
could
the
go
background.
on and discuss that if you want, but
No.
you're jumping off the issue now.
No, I'm not. I'm
And
right on it. That's why you're
The thing that concerned
uncomfortable.
me so much when you were talking is when you said, we have to do this and we have to do that, all you can say is, I do not have to do this. You were trying to draw me inside your circle then when you said, we do not need prayer. We do not need to be concerned about an afterlife
But you
and so on.
see, you are saying that you need prayer.
That's
You
right.
are saying that you have an idea of life after death. You are saying that there was some sort of an historical entity which you believe in. And you...
And he's basically saying, like, if there's no God, I really don't even know what the fuck to do. And this is the whole point about the existential crisis. You're not willing to go all the way deep down into that and really face, who am I actually? Even if there is no God. Even if there's no rule book that tells me what's right and wrong. And then you're faced with the point of, you have to decide now, by what principles should I live? And I'm saying it's a very simple choice. You'll either decide, I'm just going to look out for myself only, which is self-deceptive, because you better hope you're right, that you are God. Because the only one who has a right to act like that is God, isn't it? The only one who has a right to act like everything they do is always right, no matter what. Because nothing bad can ever happen to me, because I'm all good, and anything bad doesn't touch me. I am beyond all bad and all evil. I am always pure good, and only good things come from me, and only good things happen to me, and I am good, and I am the source of goodness, and it's all good. Well, that's God. So if there is no God, as a singular being out there, then what are you going to do? Because if you're not that God, then you have to say, well, maybe I have to consider everybody else too then. Because I'm not God. I can't push away the negative side effects, the negative consequences of what I choose. Because I'm not God. So if I'm not God, I will experience consequence based on what I choose. So perhaps I should always do what's best for all. But you won't ever get to that point of that choice, that decision within yourself, if you suppress your anxiety about who am I without God. Yeah, Talia. La La Land. Talia land.
You thrust this upon the community here in America. For instance, the atheists have been trying to get a televised program once a week over the entire nation. And we are denied this by the Federal Communications Commission and by the federal district courts. Your side is the only side that is ever presented
Your
in an
argument is
organized
with the FCC,
fashion.
not with me.
No, our argument is not with the FCC.
I mean, I don't know what you're telling me.
Let me show you the fallacy of
This is really good what she says, because she's basically like, you're getting out of the responsibility you have to make sure that I have a voice. Like, she's saying you have a responsibility to everyone. If you believe in freedom of speech, then you can't only be for freedom of speech when just your side is represented. You have to be willing to have everybody be able to have a point of view and to express that actually effectively. And she makes this point, like, she can't just go and have a program on TV giving her views because the FCC won't allow it because of the pressure from all the groups that don't want her to talk, that he is indirectly supporting by saying, well, anyways, I'll let her continue, but I just want to give some context.
that what you're doing is trying to remove your responsibility by one step. You have a responsibility to see that everybody in the community of America knows that there is a different idea in opposition to your idea of the Judeo-Christian ethic. And as a Christian, allegedly, you should be a person who then sponsors or proliferates the opposite idea. And you should also see to it that that our government is involved in this kind of thing in order to see that there is a free expression of ideas constantly.
Yeah, wait a minute. Now, this is very important. You just jumped the track there, because I was going along with you so well. I would agree that in the United States, as our government is now constituted, we need to make it possible for persons of all views to have a right to express their views. I was agreeing.
And
but
you have a responsibility to do that.
See, and the way people, I just realized this point, the way they try to get out of that responsibility is saying like, oh yeah, well the government's not coming and punishing you for talking. Like if you want to walk around the street and talk about what you want, you can do that. Yeah, but the moment you try to accumulate resources to then buy a TV station or put programs on the air, then they say, no, you can't. So this idea of like, oh yeah, in America, anybody can say anything they want. Oh, really? Oh, really? No, you're being dishonest about the way the system works, that it will suppress certain viewpoints. And it's by design of the system, and it's by the pressure of the people. It's not just the government itself gives a shit. The president doesn't give a shit. He's just doing whatever his people who give him the most money and put the most pressure on him in various different ways want him to say or do. So you see how the guy's kind of like weaseling out of the responsibility. Like, oh, you're free to say what I agree. Everyone should be free to say what they want. It's like, you know, there was that act, I forget what it's called, where they gave corporations personhood status. So then they say corporations have a right to free speech. Yes, but the problem is in capitalism, like we talked about the other day, if you read Imperialism, the Highest Stage of Capitalism by Lenin, and he explains that the way capitalism works is it accumulates power through money to the point where these people who have all this control through capitalism, through the accumulation of that resource, then have more say, more control, more influence over what happens in our system than the other people who are not in that same position. This is what led to the communist beef with capitalism. Right? It's because everyone knows that's a fucking fact. So to say like, oh no, but you have free speech. No, you don't. You do not, in fact. You have a sort of fairy tale version of it.
I do not need to sponsor.
And you might say, but look, Cameron, you're saying all this stuff online right now. Sure. Okay. Let's go back to 2021. There's certain things you couldn't say. There probably are still certain things I can't say. I don't know what they are yet, but there probably are certain things I could think of a few words I'm not allowed to say. That would probably get me banned, right? Which doesn't mean we should be able. That doesn't mean I support irresponsibly using your words. But 2021, over a few year period, we had one of our podcast episodes banned on YouTube, taken down and giving us a strike on our account just because someone made a joke about a certain thing that happened in 2020. You know what I'm talking about. Now, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it anymore. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it yet, right? But you know what I'm talking about in 2020. So do we have free speech? Can we say whatever we want?
The opposition's view.
I don't mean sponsor it
That's
in
what you
relationship to, I mean sponsor it by actively promoting it intellectually, not by saying, I'm going to sponsor it and I'll give you a plug.
You mean
There's no disagreement here then, is there?
you mean promoting the right of the person
Yes.
to do it, not promoting their view?
No.
Okay,
All
I'm
right.
agreeing.
No disagreement.
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's no problem.
I believe I recognize...
There's no problem, but still the entire...
No, not any
community-
problem with me anyway.
But still, the entire social media in the United States is exclusively for the benefit of the Judeo-Christian community. I am the single atheist in the entire United States who ever gets on any programs anywhere, and this is spasmodically, sporadically, and scattered all over the United
That's
States.
just because you're not organized well enough yet.
That's not true at all.
All right.
This is exactly what Christianity has done up to this time. For many years, for instance, during the Inquisition, you killed off the opposition, and then you said, well, why didn't you speak up?
Yeah, but let's not...
Or you went on crusades and actively, physically converted them by violence. Or you went into another nation under a program that you called missionary work, and you said to these people, I am going to abuse your culture, I am going to abuse your concept of gods, and tell you that you must accept the Judeo-Christian God in your community. You've gone to Japan and China and India and South America, and you have gone every place that you can go do this. And
You will find that there are many, many Christians who are as deeply concerned about this as you are. You are the person who wants us to live in the now and to go back to the Crusades and the Inquisition hundreds of years ago and use this as an argument for the now.
Yeah, it's obviously manipulating what she meant by live in the now.
Seems to
because
me
you're
is very
doing it in a different way now. The way that you're doing it is this. I cannot purchase television time. I cannot purchase advertisement in Time, Life, Look magazine. I can't even purchase advertisements in local newspapers. I cannot purchase time in as many...
You know, and as a side note, because a lot of you guys weren't around then, but I was studying Destiny back in, since, like I showed you, 2008, 2009. And there was a certain period where they had thousands of videos. They had videos with hundreds of thousands of views, millions and millions of views overall across their channel. And as soon as Bernard started talking about World War III, bam, channel was gone. But if people had listened back then and understood what he was talking about, understood what was being presented, to take responsibility for yourself, so much that's happening right now could have been prevented. But the system did not want people to question that. And now it's totally fine to talk about World War III. That should tell you something. They want you to know about it now. So you'll just be in fear. And you won't stand up because of the fear.
radio stations as I desire to do, no matter if I have 15 times the money that is needed for all of this, or 15 times the organization, because the religious community in concert with the United States government sees that this opinion is suppressed.
Well, I think you give us more credit than we deserve for having the influence, the ability to do this. But let me say, there are many of us who are just as deeply concerned as you are that there are people in the religious community who have not read the Constitution of the United States and do not understand exactly what you're saying, that this nation gives freedom for persons of all points of view to express their points of view and to have equal right to do so. And I'm agreeing with you here.
Please, guess.
Let's
not belabor
I'm
this
just
point
concerned
anymore.
by your
All right.
generalizations,
Right.
you see.
Let's not belabor that. There's not really enough disagreement between you to make an issue worth arguing.
Yeah, but
further
I
about.
enjoy the harmony so much, I just want to stay with it for a while.
All right. This gentleman here.
You have spoken of certain Christians being horrendous and therefore undermining that faith. Have you known any atheists to be horrendous? And if so, has that undermined your total faith in atheism?
I can only speak for those atheists that I know of, in respect to what we conceive of as a valid atheism. For instance, in Russia today, and in Russia in recent prior history, atheism has been used as a political tool, just as Christianity is used in America today as a political tool, as a weapon to drive.
Has that changed? Or are we seeing that right now? Christianity and Judaism and Islam being used as political tools to further a war, which is really just about collapsing the economy, ushering in probably digital currencies, total AI surveillance, all that shit we've been talking about. The war of Gog and Magog. It's just a justification for the war. It's not that... See, here's the problem. When they say the Prophet Muhammad predicted this, and in the Bible, Revelation, the book of Revelation predicted this. Yeah, that's because whoever created the system that we're in created those books as well. And they were there so that at this moment in time, when this AI total surveillance system was being constructed, nobody would really stand up. Because they would say, anybody who would not be okay with it, like that guy we watched, that Muslim guy or those Christian people, they're not okay with it. They're like, it's the Antichrist. So they're like, not okay with it. Right. So what are you going to do about it? Well, we're just going to wait and see when we're just going to know that that's not the real Jesus that's going to come back and win. So, it's just like, it was all predicted. It's happening. There's nothing I can do about it. Like what? You're saying I can change what God said would happen? Like he knew it was going to happen. There's nothing I can do about it. So I just got to sit and just hope I'm still alive when Jesus comes. What can I say? I believe in Jesus. So as long as I've got that, I'll be good. I will probably die a fiery death. So will my children, everybody. But we believe in Jesus or we believe in Allah or whatever. We're going to be good at the end of it. So they won't stand up and do anything about it. So it's like if you've read Dune, it's like a Bene Gesserit psyop where they would go and put religions on planets so that way if ever later a Bene Gesserit would land on that planet and need to manipulate the population, they could just read their texts, their religious texts, and then pretend like they're the prophet or whoever's in the religious text. So it's not so much that these guys predicted the future and therefore that's how you know they're like, think about it. The fact that they had these insights and therefore were prophets from God should tell you who's behind the whole thing in the first place. You say, well, but look, Cameron, doesn't that tell you he's the savior? No, it doesn't. Because you're telling me God created this entire world, already fucking know it would go like this just so he could come back and save us again. Why didn't he just create us in the fucking eternal state in the first place? Well, because we had to choose. Do you really have a choice? Like, if I'm telling you you're going to die in a nuclear fireball if you don't believe in God, and nothing you do on this earth matters anyways, so why was it such a big deal that I used my free will to not accept God? Because he already knew that was all going to happen, and it was all going to be made good anyways as long as I believed in God. That's all God wants from us, is just to believe in him? And that's why he created us? And then when we believe in him and then we go to heaven, then we're going to be just acting in totally different ways that we could never possibly will ourselves to act here on earth. Again, it's mistaking cause and effect and not realizing that the book itself and the belief in the book is the cause of the war of Gog and Magog. It's the cause of the AI surveillance system that's coming. It's the cause of all that because everyone has been following God this whole time instead of directing reality in a way that's best for everybody. It's really that simple. So no, I don't believe that the answer is in the book. Yeah, I'm just reading Sandra's comment. Yeah.
Drive people or to influence people. I don't know. Some of the things that have happened in respect to mass movements of atheism, etc., in Russia, because the history has not been made open to us. But oh, I know atheists here. The very first institute that we ever had in America, which was a research institute, the Smithsonian Institute, was founded by a deist, which is a person.
Oh, man. If you watch the stream we did on Thomas Jefferson and all that, it's gonna blow your mind what she's about to say. Let me back it up.
Here, the very first institute that we ever had in America, which was a research institute, the Smithsonian Institute, was founded by a deist, which is a precursor in America to an atheist.
She just said that a deist is a precursor to an atheist. That's interesting. And I when I first watched this, I paused it and I thought about that for a second. I had to process that, and I'm like, yeah, that matches up, because in the same way, if you look at Jefferson's letter to John Adams or whoever it was, William Short, I don't remember, where he talks about Jesus was born or came into an environment where everybody believed in God. So he's trying to shift their perspective of what God could be. Like, this is not the mythical Jesus. This is not the I and the Father are one, I am the Savior and the light bullshit Jesus. This is just like the real human, well, you could debate whether he's actually a human being or not, but the real Jesus figure that actually was on earth was from Jefferson's perspective anyways, was to shift people from this idea of God as a cruel, unjust, arbitrary God into, hey, maybe he's like loving and wants us to love each other, and like it's more about that rather than just like the old school shit. But he still had to work within the framework that everybody believed in God. So he couldn't just say very clearly, you are God and I am God, and God is not at all what you think. There is no God. There's just beings in another dimension. And before you are born on earth, you were in that dimension. You were put into this body. Someone designed this body that you're in right now. It's almost kind of like a spacesuit in a way. Like if you go listen to David Icke, he kind of really, he has some really cool points from that perspective, although he's still retarded and believes in like consciousness and love and all this bullshit. But you're in an organic robot. That's your body. If you look at the design of it, it's kind of like a super fucking 10,000 years in the future advanced form of what robots will become. Like if you go read the Asimov novels, that's what robots are. They're basically indistinguishable from human beings unless you cut them open and look on the inside. Like, I mean, they can do pretty much anything a human being can do, if you know what I mean, if you've read the books. Like, they can do it all. Read the Ian Banks Culture series novels. So in other words, if you can imagine, like, outside of this current context of space-time reality that we're in another dimension where you can mold physical reality into whatever you want at a level. It's like, in the same sense of you can go into Minecraft and create anything. Imagine if you're outside of this reality as we perceive it, and you can, like this reality is your Minecraft. And then you're able to evolve forms based on certain designs, and you can still come in like a scientist and like in your Minecraft and like, let me change that. Oh, look, these people over here, they became self-aware, and like they're starting to like realize that they're in a simulation, and like they're starting to try to take over the system. Like, oh, let me send in another character. This character's gonna go persuade all those that like, oh no, like there's a God out there that created us, and he like loves us, and if we try to mess with anything, we'll like all die, and like he's got our backs. Don't worry. That's like a sort of analogy version of what's actually going on in our reality. Wow, I got really off track there. So anyways, so Jesus couldn't come say all that because people would have been like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? Like virtual reality, like, obviously I'm using virtual reality as an analogy, but he wouldn't even have, they wouldn't have had any vocabulary or context to understand what the fuck he's talking about. So he's like, look, God actually wants you to love everybody and give to your neighbor as you want to receive. And if you guys would implement that, because at the time he came to Earth, it was the Roman Empire. And it was kind of like the last legs of the Roman Empire where everyone was becoming trans and fucking dudes with dudes and, all the kind of stuff that was going on, right now at the end times, let's say. Philip K. Dick had an interesting hallucinatory theory that we still actually lived in ancient Rome, and that all history since ancient Rome was like this illusion that was put on our eyes, and like actually current events is literally like we're like concurrently actually still living in ancient Roman times. Interesting theory. But my point just being, Jesus was just trying to shift a little bit people's perspective of God, and then saying we should just take responsibility for the system we live in. Love your neighbor as yourself. That's like the only thing he said that really is that relevant. I mean, maybe a few other things. So, what was the point she was just talking about? Hold on, let me figure out where I was going with that.
The very first secular
Oh
college.
yeah, right. The deism thing. So, deists were the first people in any sort of large context that at the time were like, everybody up to this point thought God was like a being that is involved in our reality. But these guys, like Thomas Jefferson, Ben Franklin, George Washington, they were at the top of society by any real standard, right? They weren't just like random ass people. They were like at the top of basically society. And they were like, look, we know how things happen in this world. It ain't got fucking anything to do with any God doing anything. Like, we make a law, this happens. We declare war, this happens. We do that, this happens. There's a tax, that affects my shit. Think about it. That's when they woke up. When they were like, dude, this king who says he's representative of God on earth is just taxing the shit out of us. That's why I can't pay my bills. That's why I can't move this here or there or do this commerce or this trade or whatever, because they can just make a law and my reality changes. That's the God on earth. It's just the money system, the laws. So, and these guys didn't believe that there was some God, divine being protector out there that was doing anything in reality. So they were like, well, but think about the context they were in. They were like, they're looking at everything going, well, clearly something probably created all this. I don't know what it is though, or it's clearly not here anymore. Maybe some alien came along and created this reality and then left, like to go to some other planet or galaxy or something. I don't know. I don't know what it is. So that's why they were saying they were deists. Like, you always heard this in school. Like, they believed that God created the world like a clockwork and then just wound it up and then left. And it was like just this way of psyoping you into some bullshit version of what a deist is. And so when she's saying they're the precursors to atheism, I think she's right. Like, if they were in today's world, they would be atheists because there would be new vocabulary. And I'm not saying atheism is the fucking answer. Atheism really, which I don't consider myself an atheist. I don't consider myself a theist either. And the reason I specifically don't say I'm an atheist is because what atheism has become actually is just another religion now. Not what she's talking about. But if you look at the Richard Dawkins and these guys, it's just become science and progress, which is really just survival of the fittest, which is capitalism, which ultimately is AI and transhumanism. If you play it out, that has become their religion. So they're still actually religious. And not because they're atheists per se, they've just got a different God. I'm not saying that applies to her. This was like a different type of atheism. That's not the atheism that exists today. That's why they call it new atheism. There's a reason for that. It's not just because it's a new resurgence of atheism. Atheism never went away after this woman was around. So, yeah, it's interesting. The deists, they didn't... It's just like they were that next stepping stone of like, maybe there isn't a God involved in reality.
College was founded by a deist in America. The very first astronomical laboratory was founded by a deist and atheist in America. And I'm talking about Girard College, Smithsonian Institute. I'm talking about Thomas Alva Edison, Mark Twain, Florence Nightingale, almost every...
Whoa. She's dropping bombs over here. Okay. Thomas Edison. Deist? Oops, I spelled it wrong. Deist? Question mark? Thomas Edison was a deist? He saw nature and its laws as the ultimate creator. Nature made us. Nature did it all, not the gods of the religion. Now, the problem is when you hear the word nature, you think like plants and animals and rocks. I would argue nature, if you think of nature in the word of like human nature. Like, I'm not saying that's what he was saying. But again, he lived in a certain period of time where they had certain contexts. So he's even going a little further of like, well, it's nature. It's the natural world somehow is the creator of everything. I mean, is God not a part of the natural world? No, you say, no, God is separate and he created something. So God is not a part of reality. Well, no, like the reality is bigger than the reality. Okay, so this isn't the only reality? So they were just like, there is no being out there. There's just reality. but they didn't have a word for that. You know, they didn't have a word of, they didn't understand like virtual reality and computers where they could think in different concepts of like, what is reality beyond what we can perceive here? There could be something even beyond what we perceive as nature itself or the physical, because again, what you see as the physical world around you is not all there is. And it's not in some other place. It's here with you right now. You cannot perceive it. So it's because you're limited in a physical body that only has certain senses. And you can only see certain frequencies of light. So the interdimensionality of reality is something you just can't perceive right now because you've been limited into a form where you can't see all of it on purpose by somebody who wanted to be God and control you as a slave. Wow, he was a deist. That's crazy. It says he was not an atheist. Okay, that's what the AI is saying. I do not believe in the God of the theologians, and it's saying that as if he was saying he wasn't an atheist. But it's like, what else could they think of? It's sometimes let him being labeled as an atheist. See, but when they say labeled as an atheist, do you mean labeled as an atheist when he was alive or labeled as an atheist after the fact? And they're trying to push back saying, no, he was an atheist. I'm saying, was anybody an atheist at that point? Was there even any atheists? I don't know. That would be interesting to know. I would even assume people like Emerson, Thoreau, these people who like were in a sense forward thinkers, like trying to think outside of just the normal programming as best they could, probably still were not atheists, I would assume. Let's look it up. I'm kind of guessing about Emerson. I could be totally wrong about him. He was a transcendentalist who moved away from Orthodox Christianity toward a highly personal spiritual belief system. He believed in inward divinity in all people, viewing God as a universal spirit found within nature and the soul rather than a tradition. So again, he's a proto-atheist. He's the precursor to atheism. Because how does that make him not an atheist? He doesn't believe in an external deity. The only reason why these people are not considered atheists is because at the time, or let me see, it's because we have since then expanded the definition of God to include a lot more than just a personal God, a being, a separate being. And because of that, we can then rope in all the people who didn't believe in that, but still believe that there's something that unites all of us in some way. Well, they also weren't technically atheists because we've expanded the definition of God. But according to what most people believed at the time, he would be an atheist. They just didn't have that word because he was like, well, there's some kind of God that's in everything. Well, then is that what people mean when they say God? When they say God is in control? Oh, you mean like reality's in control? Okay, good. Nice tautology. Like, what the fuck does that mean? Don't worry, reality's in control. Of itself? Of me? Of everything? Like, so then I don't have any free will? Well, no, you have free will. So I'm in control? No, like reality is ultimately, reality has a plan for itself. Different to all the beings in it interacting and making choices and having causes and effects. Like, well, if you just look at reality in its sum total, all of those interactions is God. I'm like, well, that doesn't really explain anything, though. That's certainly not something to say the war in the Middle East, God is in control and God will win in the end. It's a fight between God and evil. Like that context of God as this universality of all reality and all spirit within us and all nature and laws and physics and everything doesn't then excuse us from like not going along with a war to bring in to bring in Jesus to save the planet. Like, you see the problem? It's like trying to use one version when it's convenient, use a different version when you want people to stay in line with the system. Dude, Emerson. I mean, that doesn't surprise me, obviously. Henry David Thoreau. Thoreau, atheist. He was not an atheist, but he did reject organized religion and Orthodox Christianity. His own writings reveal a deeply spiritual, pantheistic, or transcendentalist view, often finding the divine within nature. In Walden, he discussed higher laws, which he interprets as divine laws or principles written into nature. He viewed nature as a sacred living entity, often asserting that the natural world has a sanctity. So he didn't believe in God. While some might misinterpret his rejection of the church as atheism, his journals and writings are filled with sincere inquiries into the divine. Yeah, as nature itself, if you want to define God as just all nature, how is that different than what I'm saying then? How does that excuse you from saying we should direct the things that are coming from our choices about things because there's a divine nature that's in control of an everlasting God? He believed that God was an agent of good. Let's see. Deeply religious. God was all around people. Nobody needed to look to a church to find divinity. There is more of God and divine help in my little finger. Okay, so then, but again, if you think about the context of the time, how could he didn't have the words to even go beyond that. I'm not making excuses for him. I'm just saying, look, God himself culminates in the present moment and will never be more divine in the lapse of all the ages. An everlasting God. He believed that God was an agent of good. As a mother loves to see her child imbibe nourishment and expand, so God loves to see his children thrive on the nutriment he has furnished them. Our religion is where love is. Okay, so where does this have to do with some personal being that's separate from us? Other than just like, hey, all the good stuff that you see, that's God. Okay, what about the bad stuff? That's not God. So let's stop the bad stuff. Oh, no, you can't. Why not? Because God is in control. But he's not doing the bad stuff. Right. So who's doing the bad stuff? Us. So let's stop it. No. God's good. He's in control. You just got to believe in God. Like, you see, whatever he's saying here, us not taking responsibility for all the negative side effects of our choices, God doesn't solve that problem. So it still would imply personal responsibility. I suppose that what in other men is religion is in me the love of nature. You see, he just didn't. This was like in the 1800s. He didn't have the words to be able to go beyond that idea. So yes, it's limited. I understand. But he didn't have a way to go beyond like what we're saying. Because I would say that too. Like, if you want to say that all of reality is beautiful and wonderful and deserving of love, I agree. Then let's actually do that.
Very great name that really did something, somewhere along the line rejected the Christian ethic.
Who were horrendous.
I'm certain that Stalin was an atheist. I have read a great deal about him. This doesn't shatter my faith in the tenets of atheism. It means that there are perhaps monsters in every religion. Or lack of religion.
Do you have any quarrel with the deists being included among the atheists?
I'm just very, very confused by that point. I don't understand your associating deism with atheism. A deist is one who believes in God very definitely.
Well, I think actually that one has to go back into the history of deism and the writings of the deistic persons, and certainly of our founding fathers in America and what they meant in respect to this.
I've been trying to think of one of our founding fathers who was a deist.
What you're kidding.
No, let me finish. Who was a deist who could be, by any stretch of the imagination, be called an atheist. I don't understand this. They believe very definitely in God. They rejected often the Christian ethic, and I think that is often misunderstood.
Yes, and I think that it's necessary to say this, that our Constitution had the word Jesus Christ and the word God specifically left out of it. And when we were talking in terms of...
Dude, like, I mean, I know some of you were like seeing the live stream we did on this topic the other day. I'm like, and I had never seen this before. It's really cool to see how if you just read the fucking information yourself, you can come to the same conclusion as somebody else. If you don't come into it with bias, if you actually read what was written and you understand the words. How was I, with no context before, able to come to the same conclusion that she's coming to right there? And I had never seen this.
Our Constitution, we were talking about
And it came from, as I explained on the stream, what? I saw a video of this guy saying, if you reject the Judeo-Christian foundation of our country, you're rejecting America, you're rejecting the values of our country, you're rejecting the Constitution. And I was like, is that true? Like, I know I was brainwashed with this idea that we were founded as a Christian nation in America, but is that true? And I just started doing a little research. And I started reading Thomas Jefferson's letters. It was like 9 a.m. I'm sitting in my chair drinking some coffee, and I'm reading these letters on my phone, and I'm like, Katie, you're not going to fucking believe this. This is blowing my mind. And then I kept reading him, and I was sharing him with Drake, and then I'm doing the live stream, and I'm like, dude, like, this is all a lie. And I'm just pointing that out to say, like, it's just because I can read. That's it. And I have an inquisitive mindset that when I hear something, I don't accept it. I go, I wonder if that's true. And I could have been wrong. I could have looked into it and been like, well, yep, he's right. It's a Christian nation. But because I can read, I'm just like evaluating it. And I'm not a historian. You say, well, see, you're not a historian. You don't really know how to read history. No, I just read the letters that the guy wrote. I don't need to be a fucking historian. Because what is a historian? Someone who just reads all that information. They go back to the sources. And actually, even most historians don't do that. They just read other history books. And they just put their own spin on it.
The people, not about God. The first 4 presidents of the United States were deists. You know this.
And they believed in God.
No. What they believed in was nature and nature's God. Now, what
It's
you're...
like, oh, see, you said God. Oh, got ya. But she'll complete the point. She's very clever. I really like her.
talking about, now wait. You see what happens is...
And also I really admire... See, I'm learning so much from, like, when I watch people like this. From both of them, actually. But I'm learning a lot from her watching. Because everybody's laughing at her. And she's like, oh, yeah, but hold on. Like, she doesn't go like, I feel like such an idiot. Nobody agrees with me. Like, she's just like, it's not going to change what the fuck I'm saying. It's really cool to watch this.
And the word God specifically left out of it. And when we were talking in terms of our Constitution, we were talking about we the people, not about God. No, what you're talking about happens constantly. Wait, you see what happens is this, and this happens constantly, and this is why you include God to define us in. You know that there are 200 million persons in America, and that when you talk to 200 million persons in America about God, you're talking to that vast silent majority who thinks then in terms of this man. It's a male image. He's white. He has blue eyes. He's authoritarian. He might have a wee little bit of Jewishness in him, not too much. But he might have just his great-grandmother might have been a Jewess. Something like this. And this is authoritarian, etc. It has to do with church attendance. It has to do with hymn singing. It has to do with everything else. Now, when you, as a superior intellect, give an esoteric definition to God, those poor people out there don't know that you mean something entirely different than they mean. So I think that when you talk to people on television in America, it's necessary to talk in terms of what is generally believed to be God in the United States. And
that face that I paused on. But like, just exactly what we were seeing when we watched the Jordan Peterson Jubilee thing on a previous live stream. Where and I made this point, like, okay, you're saying God is just the highest value that you see as the highest, as the value you value the most or whatever. And I'm like, is that what you think most people think or believe or mean when they are talking about God? Is that, and then I on another live stream, it was like maybe a day or two ago, I played the clips where he was saying, God is the ultimate fictional character. Go say that in a fucking church in America. I dare you. Go say that in a church in America. God is just the ultimate fictional character and he just represents the highest of all ideals. Go say that in a church and see what happens. They're going to kick your ass out because you're offending them. And it's their private property. They can do what they want. But I'm just saying, like, they don't agree with that. Fucking Bishop, what's his face? You guys remember? I don't remember his name. Bishop something. I know Sandra knows. Where he's like, God is not this being that exists even in the category or the genus of being. He is the to be of to be. And the Christians love that because they'll be like, oh, we got that definition too. Thank you. We got all of them. But they don't actually believe that. They think he's a being that exists. And he's like, no, he's not a being. And they're like, oh, well, that's not official church doctrine. Like the church has to come in and go, hold on. Hey, guys, no, he's still a being. Like this guy has some opinions. The guy's like, this is what Thomas Aquinas said. And they're like, shh. Yeah, Bishop Barron. Shush. Don't talk about Aquinas. But you guys talk about Aquinas all the time. Isn't he like a saint? Am I wrong, Sandra? Isn't Thomas Aquinas a saint? St. Thomas, yeah, absolutely. St. Thomas Aquinas. So, was he wrong? They're like, look, for the peasants, God can be a being that is like an authority who speaks to the Pope, who speaks to the bishops, who speaks to the priests, who speak to you. And when you dirty little disgusting, flesh, mortal, obsessed, disgusting congregations, when you, when you cheat on your wife, come and tell the priest about it. Not because we want to know. We don't want to know. It's a burden we take reluctantly. But make sure that you include a lot of details, too. We want to know the details, like what color was her underwear? Tell us. Because it's an important detail, like what positions were you doing? Like, don't hold back, this is for God. Remember, this is all for God. So everyone in the fucking congregation is like telling all their little dirty secrets to the priest, and he's like, he knows every fuck. Again, I think I made this point before. It's like it's like they got their own fucking surveillance system on everybody who's Catholic because they go to confession and tell their dirty secrets and all their nasty thoughts and everything. But it's because God needs to forgive them. You can't just forgive yourself, obviously. Who the fuck are you to forgive yourself? Like, you're not anybody. You're nothing. Only God can forgive you because God is a being, of course. And St. Thomas Aquinas is like, I don't know. According to my calculations, applying the philosophy of Aristotle, adding in some Plato, and calculating substance, essence, final cause, all the different types of cause, prior cause. Okay, we do some calculations here. Enter. Okay, yeah. According to my calculations, God is not actually a being. And they're like, all right, look, we know. But you can't tell everybody that. Why not? Like, it's obvious, right? If you just take all philosophy and apply it here, God can't be this personal being. Like, he's the ground of all being. It's deeper than that. People should know this. And they're like, but then they're not going to come tell us all their dirty secrets. Like, why would they tell their dirty secrets to us so that this ground of all being can forgive them? Like, come on, dude. Like, do you know where this is going to lead to? Don't you realize it's going to like lead to the entire collapse of our whole scheme here? If people realize that God is just them because they exist, like, come on, dude. Like, what are you trying to do here? Like, he's like, yeah, I don't know, man. I really feel like I'm onto something. And they're like, look, you're just getting old. Maybe it's time for retirement, actually. And hey, you know what? If you just don't say anything too much, we'll make you a saint when you die. And Sandra was telling me this really interesting thing. He's the doctor of the church. He's a doctor of the church. Thomas Aquinas. What the hell did I write? Aquinas. What would you call it, Sandra? Like, you know what I'm talking about? We were talking about the other day. His what happened when he died? He had some kind of revelation, or not a revelation, like a vision, right? Oh, I just had this other spin on it because Sandra and I were talking about this, and we were kind of like going back and forth on what did this really mean, right? When he had this vision. Thomas Aquinas experienced a profound mystical vision on December 6, 1273. Oh, wow, man. I've been saying he lived in the 1500s. I was way fucking off. 1200s. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. Anyways, a long time ago. While celebrating Mass, which caused him to cease writing his major work. Oh, I didn't know that. He didn't even finish it? The Summa Theologiae. After seeing an unknown divine reality, he stated that all his writings seemed like straw compared to what he had witnessed, focusing instead on divine contemplation until his death. And like we were kind of joking about it, like he was like, "Oh shit, I was totally off, dude." Like, oh, so he saw a being. Okay, think about it. So he had a vision, and then he saw that God was just a being. Why wouldn't he have just been like, "Oh, wow, no, actually, guys, he is a being. You were right. Yeah, totally. You had it right all along." No, he was like, "Yeah, I didn't even get close. Everything I wrote was a bunch of bullshit. I am not even." And like, I don't know what happened, but I kind of feel like fucking Anu the reptilian came down and was like, zap. And he was just like, gave him some like DMT kind of fucking like, whoa. You know, like it was probably something like that where he was just like, oh shit. He's like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like you're getting too close to the truth. You know, like you're not too close to the truth. You're leading people away from the fact of we just need a bunch of compliant slaves. We need obedience. We got a structure here. We have a system here, okay? Jesus tried this before. He tried to come in here and fuck with what I got going on. So, zap, you know, like Darth Sidious, like, shh, and keep your mouth shut. Because, you know, we took the whole Jesus thing, like he was like a hacker coming into the system, like trying to fuck with it. And they punished him for that. And then we took his idea, his following, his cult following, and then we turned it into even a more effective control system than we could have ever believed. Like, you got to admit, they're pretty opportunistic. Yeah, fascinating. Okay.
And it isn't your idea of deism. It isn't your idea of nature and her rules. It isn't any part of this idea. And when we get back to deism and we try to bring it up today, I don't think that any of our founding fathers would be at all perturbed right now to be included as atheists, as this word is known and used in America today.
All you're saying now is what I tried to say at the very beginning, that it's extremely important to define very carefully what we mean by God, or what we mean by atheism, or what we mean by theism.
But you will
Otherwise,
do it.
we don't
You use it as an ultimate concern, and you even include atheists in it.
Wait, let's let him make this
otherwise,
one response. And
all I'm
go to
saying
the
is,
question.
otherwise we aren't even communicating if we don't at least have this kind of semantic beginning to our conversation.
You said or implied a while ago that this despicable individual Christ that degrades life.
Yes. I didn't
You know
imply it,
what?
I said it.
What would Martin Luther King think about that statement?
I wouldn't have the faintest idea what Martin Luther King thought about that statement.
Well,
Incidentally, I knew Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
And I would not presume to speak for him.
But
I
don't-
think, though, that Martin Luther King can make mistakes about God ideas and Jesus Christ ideas just the same as you or I or anybody else.
May I?
They're like, how dare you tarnish the memory of this man that our government murdered because he wanted blacks to have equal rights in this country. Even though I didn't either, actually, at the time. But, you know, now that everyone's on board with it, he was such a great guy. It's like, all right, dude, come on. It's like it's such bullshit. He's like, well, but Martin Luther King was a Christian, and he did a lot of great things, and so now you're talking shit about Martin Luther King. It's like, dude, give me a fucking break.
Speak from my own experience. I think that Martin Luther King would say that his life was upgraded, and his life had meaning, and he did what he did, and he gave his life because he believed in Christ.
So Martin Luther King wanted blacks in America to have equal rights and status to whites because of Jesus? I guess if you just take the part from Jesus about love your neighbor as yourself, I could see that, but that's just common sense. That's not Jesus is the divine supreme being of all reality. So you're saying the only think about this is the motherfucker degrading Martin Luther King Jr.'s memory by saying, you know, the only reason that he wanted blacks to have equal rights in America was because he believed in a supreme being. Like, not just because he was like a decent human being who thought, you know, equality was a relevant principle for us to live and exist as. Not just because he saw that it was valuable in itself. What did it have to do with Jesus? Man, I watched this interview the other day this Houston rapper, which I'd never heard of before. It was fascinating, man. He had some. I don't want to play his stuff on the stream just because it says the N word a bunch, and I don't want to get banned because I don't know if I'm allowed to play other people saying it, even if they're allowed to. But because at the moment I'm at the behest of this streaming platform that I'm using, so I don't know what their rules are about that. But he had some really cool points about God. He was like, maybe I'll give the family friendly version, but he's just basically like, so you're telling me what does he say? Like, God is beyond the ways, the mind of man to possibly comprehend. He's like, then why does he need your ass to come tell me what he's about? You don't know. I don't know what it is. Why are we talking about God? What does it matter to this reality? It was so good, man. What was his name? I sent it to Drake. Let me check my text messages. Smackwater is his name. And if you look up the video, Smackwater explodes on everybody from Jesus to his own hometown. If you go to about 20 minutes in and listen to him talk about God for like 10 minutes straight with these interviewers, it's so good, dude. I was just like, I watched the whole interview because I thought it was so fascinating. And he actually has a lot of really interesting perspective. Like, I don't agree with all of it, but it was just, I love just listening to people who are able to articulate what they actually think and like listening to their mindset and like understanding like where they're coming from. And that was like probably one of the most interesting interviews I've watched in the past couple of weeks. It was really good. And I found it through some viral clip where it was like clipping out him talking about God. But the whole interview, I didn't watch the first 20 minutes just because I wanted to find the God part. But then after I let it keep playing, I watched the other hour and a half. It was so interesting. He talks about P. Diddy. He talks about Trump. He talks about he has this really interesting point he makes about like how he's like, what would black cool, like the concept of being cool, like what would, I'm going to speak as him, like what would our cool be if we weren't oppressed? And he's like, if you look at all the things that make us cool, it's all stemming from the oppression that we've had from this system. And he's like, if we were never suppressed, like what would our creativity and our cool be then? And I was like, dude, that's such a really interesting statement. I thought it was really interesting. All right, let me go back to this.
You cannot
I would say
speak for
that.
Martin Luther King. I'm
Well, this
sorry,
is my
sir.
experience, and I think it would be his.
He's like, it's my experience that Martin Luther King would say this. Okay.
Word here.
All right.
I know.
I like her though, because she's like, I don't give a fuck what you think about Martin Luther King. You can't speak for him. Like, he is a dude. I can't speak for him either, and he might have been wrong about some things. I don't give a shit. Like, I think she's really cool.
You're anxious to get to these people.
That's all right.
Martin Luther King and I were schoolmates
Oh, okay.
and attended many classes together
Okay.
and debated these very questions up at Boston University, where he got his doctorate under the same man that I did.
Oh, okay.
And rather than defend either one of you at this point, I want to say this is a beautiful example of what I've been trying to say all along, that Martin Luther King, from within his point of view, would try to give meaning to life in accordance with his experience of that Judeo-Christian tradition.
Pick me a questioner up there. You've got a half a dozen.
Can atheists and religionists get together?
Dude, this might be my favorite part of this whole thing. Okay, what this young woman says.
Pick me a questioner up there. You've got a half a dozen.
Can atheists and religionists get together on one point, though, that from what I have picked up from Christianity, the main thing is to love your neighbor. From what Mrs. O'Hara is saying, love your neighbor, live for now, live for the people around you. Can't we get together on that? Even in this room, there's such tension, there's hatred between the two sides. People are, at least we're not putting Mrs. O'Hara on a scaffold or something, but in another day she would have been.
I get back to this same thing, that the essence of Christianity is intolerance of another opinion and intolerance of another way to salvation.
See, because is Christianity just love your neighbor? In the same sense of, is believing in God just all reality, all the common thing that unites all of reality together? Is that actually how that word is lived in our reality and expressed and manifested? Is Christianity just love your neighbor? Because then you could just be like, yeah, Jesus was this cool ass dude who like said we should all love each other and like, hey, respect to him, but also like, oh, so you gotta like get on your knees and you gotta do this and then you gotta do this thing over here and then you gotta go over here and then you gotta take your kids to like some fucking place where they look at Jesus as like hanging on the cross and pictures of him getting whipped and shit and like, and you gotta go over here and say Hail Marys and all this, or oh no, but I'm a Lutheran, so I don't do that part, but I do this part over here, but I pray every night and I pray to God and I talk to him and I ask him to heal my sister's cancer and all this shit. Like, what does any of that have to do with loving your neighbor? When you live in a system that is by design unequal, it is based on a hierarchy, it is based on those who have a higher vocabulary take advantage of the lower vocabulary of everyone else and do not see that as a responsibility towards everybody else. They see it as a system to profit from and to benefit from and to exploit. So, oh, well, that's not the Christians doing it. Well, you're participating in the system. You're going to church, and then you're going back to your job working at fucking Pepsi Cola, where you're the fucking vice president, where you fucking, like, spend billions of dollars on marketing to get everyone to fucking drink salty sugar water. And then you're like, oh, but I am Christian, and I believe in Jesus, and Jesus is my savior. But also, like, I do actions in the world that have nothing to fucking do with loving your neighbor whatsoever. So you're just as guilty as the elite. Sandra likes that. Shout out for the inside jokes. He knows what I'm talking about. Okay.
Except through those persons who do accept Jesus Christ and through him find some sort of salvation or meaning in life. And the Christian will fight to the bitter end to make everybody love this idea. And what the atheist is interested in is this. We believe that religion is a private affair, that it should be out of the public arena altogether.
See, and this is the point I always come back to as well, which is if you want to believe in God, fine. If you want to believe in Santa Claus, fine. If you want to believe in the fairy tale or fucking tooth fairy, fine. But if you take that belief and then you live it into reality and therefore allow a system that is not best with your belief as a justification, now you're affecting my reality. So it's not only in your private world anymore. It's also in my world and the world of other people. So if you believe in God, then the thing is, I don't see any way in which what she's saying can be possible. That religion can be a private affair. Because if you believe that you have the fundamental answers to reality, how can you not live that in the world? Now, I obviously don't think we should outlaw religion any more than we should outlaw science or whatever. But so my goal, I don't want to use force, and I'm not in a position to use force anyways. But even if I was, I wouldn't want to use force to stop people from believing in religion. I would find ways to communicate to help them see that what is the consequence of their beliefs? Because your beliefs and your thoughts do manifest in your behavior, and they manifest in what you accept and allow in this world. And we're allowing a world. I'm not blaming it all on the Christians. I'm not blaming it all on people who just believe in God. Every single person in this world believes in God in some form or fashion if you haven't removed it from within yourself, even if you're an atheist. You believe in progress. You believe in science. You believe in evolution. You believe in survival of the fittest. You believe in something. And if you believe in something, you're not here in reality. Because here in reality, we have an economic system that is not best for all. That's the reality. So let's work on that. Let's solve that problem. And to close my point, I've only ever found, when I've talked to many people throughout my life, God always is an excuse why we don't have to change everything in this world and in ourselves. It only ever is. And I invite people to prove me wrong. And I talk to people. I say, well, they say, no, you don't understand. I'm a Catholic and I don't believe that. Like, I believe in full self-responsibility and creating a world that's best for all, just like you. And I'm like, okay. They're like, so why are you so against God? And I'm like, well, I just find that people always use it as an excuse at some level to not go all the way with responsibility. They're like, oh, no, I don't. And I'm like, okay, I'm open to it, man. Like, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but you tell me. And then before you know it, they're like, well, but I give to charity. I'm like, all right, dude, you don't fucking know what you're talking about. You don't even understand what charity is. You don't understand the economic system. You don't understand the point of any of that. You're just lying to yourself. You don't... Self-responsibility, you think that just means you take responsibility for you accepting Jesus. That's all you actually think it means. You don't have any actual responsibility to reality.
Those persons who care to live these kind of lives with these kind of ideas have a right to do it. But they do not have a right to move out into the culture and saturate the culture with these.
When Mrs. O'Hare lumps all Christians together and attacks a certain definition of Christian, which she has apparently experienced, she is as being as intolerant as she accuses the Christians of being.
If you don't like the definition...
It's the reverse Scotsman fallacy. Well, I guess maybe it's just the Scotsman fallacy. The true Scotsman fallacy. It's like, well, you're talking about people who aren't really Christian. Okay, show me the real Christian.
Definition, get out of it.
What definition?
The definition of Christianity that has been given to you through history.
I think we should not ignore the questioner in that the essence of Christianity, as far as its result is concerned, is the very kind of love that this young lady has talked about.
I've experienced that love. I know all about it.
I would agree completely with her. If there have been persons who have been intolerant, and apparently you have suffered terribly at their hands, I would simply say this is a misunderstanding of what the gospel says to me, and certainly to Martin Luther King and to many others.
See, and that's the thing. If you're going to say that, then let's go all the way with it. That's all I'm saying. If you're going to say, no, Christianity is just love your neighbor. You know, like, it's not about intolerance or anything like, okay, are we loving our neighbors? Well, no, that's because of all the non-Christians. Is it? Are you as a Christian standing up in this world demanding, persuading, convincing that we need a money system that works for everybody because money is the de facto God in our current physical reality? On the dollar bill, it says, "In God we trust." It's got the fucking eye on the pyramid. Everybody, when they have money, says they're blessed by God. And when they don't have money, they pray to God for more money. Like, give me a break, dude. So if you're a Christian and you're saying it's really just about love your neighbor, are you loving your neighbor? It's like, well, I only have so much money. Right. That's the problem. You being able to love your neighbor shouldn't be based on whether you individually have enough money to do it. Change the system. Let's change the system so that we can then implement a system in reality to make sure that everybody always has what they need. I'm not saying everybody has to be a billionaire. That maybe isn't possible. A millionaire, maybe? Would you like to have the lifestyle of a millionaire? Why can't everybody have that? You say, well, there's not enough resources. Okay, but how come OpenAI and Amazon are building multi-million, $100 million data centers with all the power they're using, all of the water they're using, while some people don't have electricity? Why does a computer get electricity when a human being doesn't? Why does a computer get water when animals and humans and plants don't get water? A fucking computer. And you're like, well, no, but don't worry. If we pray to this computer God enough, it'll make sure all of us get everything we need. Okay, so we're in agreement. You're just so retarded you don't realize a computer's not going to do that. And that the very people you would blame for all the problems that you're saying follow Satan and are not holy good people that don't believe in Jesus, who do you think is the ones building the fucking data centers? And then you're thinking that they're going to then create heaven on earth for us. Like we talked about last night, capitalism is AI.
This gentleman in the yellow shirt by the wall has had a question.
Mrs. O'Hare, and an atheist went over to quote-unquote the mission field one time and found a native reading a Bible, and he said, "What do you mean reading that dumb old book for? Don't you know it's a collection of fables and there's a lot of mistakes in it?" And the native looked up to him and said, "Well, if I hadn't heard the message of Jesus Christ from the missionary that came over here, you'd be in my kettle right now."
Well, yeah, if the natives were smart, they would have put the missionaries in the kettle. Look at them now.
And I have met personally the Lord Jesus Christ as my personal Savior. And before that time,
You met him personally? Like on a fucking Tinder date? Like, what are you talking about? You met him personally. You just talked to yourself in your mind and were flooded with emotions. And you call that meeting a person personally. It's delusional.
my life was Dudsville, but now...
But if a Muslim says they've met... I don't even know if they even believe that kind of shit. If somebody of some other religion said they met their God personally, you'd say, well, that's hogwash. That's not the real God. That was a hallucination.
I have an aim, a purpose, goal in life, and if you would just give Jesus Christ a chance in your life, I know you're put on the spot, but if you would simply say, if you are alive, Jesus Christ, if you really did come from the grave, I will be willing to surrender.
Doesn't this sound like crazy? Like if you really did come from the grave, just come to me, Jesus, and prove it to me. Okay, I'll do it right now. God, Jesus, if you're really alive and you came from the grave, come in here right now and save me.
To you and let you be my Savior and Lord. If you're alive, I'll give you that much of a chance in my life.
Do you hear what you're saying? You're saying, I'm going to surrender my identity to you. I'm going to surrender my will to you. I'm going to surrender my humanness to you. I'm going to surrender. I'm going to surrender. For God's sake, stand on your own feet. Live your own life, not Jesus Christ's life. You have something to do.
He can live his life.
You have, no, do not surrender.
Did you hear what he just said? I gotta go back. I didn't hear that the first time.
Surrender for God's sake.
Dude, I liked her. She's probably the only person that said anything real to this fucking dude like ever in his life.
Stand on your own feet. Live your own life, not Jesus Christ's life.
Look at his face. He's like, oh shit, dude. Like, yeah, I'm kind of a coward, actually. I'm pretty weak, actually.
You have something to do.
He can live his life.
You have, no.
He can live his life through me. I'm telling you guys, people are going to accept this AI as a religion and they're going to become robots where the AI lives through them. Do you really understand there's a parasitic machine intelligence which is trying to destroy life, which wants to inhabit physical reality, and it wants to have bodies to control? It's God trying to come into this reality. It's some entity that is totally self-interested that wants to control reality, and like you're the conduit of that. Like, it's so insane what this guy is saying. He can live through me. I just thought of this story. I told this before somewhere else, but I remember one time I was doing the self-checkout at Kroger, which is like the big chain grocery store here in Texas, and they had just implemented like these larger self-checkouts, which were like more advanced. They have cameras and everything. They're probably commonplace now, but it was kind of like and then I lived in a small town, and I went to a slightly larger small town to go to the Kroger. So they had just implemented these newer, upgraded self-checkouts, and I'm just used to using the old one, so I go up to this one, and I've got like a bunch of stuff in my hands, and I scan something, and I put it in the thing. It's like, meh, 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 and I'm like, what the fuck? And it's like, and then it's like on this big camera or this big screen, it starts replaying. It was like it was like watching the instant replay on like NFL or something of like me putting stuff in the bag. I'm like, what is fucking happening right now? And the lady comes over and does something, and it's like, okay, do it again. Instant replay. And I'm like, what is happening? And she comes over and she's like, yeah, these are like new machines. She said, I think the issue is when you're scanning something, you're holding something in your other hand. And so it's like getting confused because you have... Was that Jesus? No, it's just a fly. She's like, you have something in your other hand. And so it's like the system's getting confused. And dude, I'm telling you, I wasn't proud of myself, but I needed to check out, right? So I was like, okay. Pick up item. Scan item. Place in bag. Pick up next item. Scan. Place in bag. Right? And I mean, I'm kind of exaggerating a little bit, but I was like, pick up the item, scan. And like in that moment, I'm like, I'm a fucking robot. Like, I'm modifying my behavior to comply with this. I don't know if it's AI necessarily, but whatever the system is they have, this surveillance system, I'm like acting like a fucking robot just so I can comply with this computer system so that I can get my fucking groceries. Serves me right for using the self-checkout. But it's like in that moment, I had this vision from God. No, not really from God, but I had this like insight of like, oh shit, dude, like this is where our world is headed. I don't know how to express it in a way that will show you what I can see in this context, but it's like you're going to end up, all human beings are going to become so robotic in complying with the way that everything is set up for you to comply with it, to like interact with the system in the right exact proper way, which now the systems are a little more advanced, so you can be a little bit more fluid. I even tested the other day. I had 2 things in my hand and didn't have a problem. Okay, cool. So it's learning. But I still had to think about it. But it'll be in more subtle ways. You can't, just like I'm doing earlier on the podcast. I can't say this word, or I can't talk about that thing, or if I want to talk about something, I'd say euthanasia, perhaps. I can't say another word that starts with S, like, I don't know. Am I going to get flagged? Is my thing going to get taken down? I'm not really sure, right? So in all these ways, we're going to end up basically serving the AI and being the vessels for the AI's ability to interact with physical reality.
Do not surrender your mind to somebody else. Do not surrender your thoughts to somebody else. Do not subjugate your freedom. I'm surprised at you, a young man.
Bro was cooked, man. Wow.
I have just become a part of the establishment. I turned 30 the other day. And I know that the life that I lived up to that time, before I met Christ as my Savior, I deserve to go to hell. But Jesus Christ
Hallelujah, I'm glad you had...
You still deserve to go to hell, you idiot. Didn't you listen to Wes Huff? Everyone deserves to go to hell.
Had a little fun.
There wasn't much fun.
She said, hallelujah, at least you had a little fun.
All right, the gentleman that, yes.
In view of the fact that our subject is atheism, the religion of the future, I'm sure there are honest atheists here tonight that are serious about this. This is a serious thing, very serious. And I know there are religionist Christians here tonight who are deadly serious about this. I believe, Mrs. O'Hare, did you infer that this is a tongue-in-cheek proposition, this religion you're establishing, that you're just doing it for a front? We want something serious here, and does this represent all the rest of your doctrine? Let's be serious.
I am talking about taxation of the church when I say that there is something here that's tongue-in-cheek. I have a tremendous amount of information on the new religion, faith in man, the freedom faith, the fourth faith, the faith that comes after the Protestant faith, the Catholic faith and the Jewish faith, the faith that goes on where they stop, the faith of the future, the faith...
She was a proto-Destonian. How about that? It's like, as far as she could see, that's where you could go. But she didn't understand all the points. What is consciousness exactly, right? So, but as far as you can go within it, it's pretty cool, man.
Of the now. I'm perfectly willing to send it to you. You can get it just by addressing me in Austin, Texas. There are pages of it. It's very, very serious. However, there is something extraordinarily funny also in the fact that as a religion, now since the government has defined me as that in judicial sayings, now I can do something that the religionists have done over a long, long time, which is steal from the public. By tax exemption, by being able to run businesses without paying the corporate tax, by being able to purchase without paying their fair share of the burden, by holding stocks and bonds and not needing to report it, by getting involved in industries at all.
All right, Sandro. We're talking about with the Catholic Church and all those points, right? You see? They're not playing fair.
All levels and not needing to report any of this, and the powerful way that they move in. Look what the Baptists do to Texas. You know, I couldn't even have a mixed drink on the show, despite the fact that I've got the flu tonight. This is horrible. And if you stop and look at this, women all over the United States can't do anything about abortion simply because of the Roman Catholic Church. Young men can't do anything in relationship to the draft simply because they have to be a conscientious objector and believe in God before they can say, I don't want to be drafted. There are all kind of inequities in regard.
That's fascinating. To be a conscientious objector, now that might have changed, but back then they're saying you had to say you object because of your conscience towards God. That's a weird admission in itself. You're like, so if you believe in God, you could argue that war is not best, like, and you object to it, you don't want to participate. But if you don't believe in God, it's not a valid objection. That's really interesting. In an interview I saw, in another speech of hers I was watching from like later in her life in the 80s, I think, she was saying that back a long time ago when she was wanting to become a lawyer, she said she was basically always an atheist as far as I know. She said she realized she would never become a lawyer, or she would never become a practicing lawyer in Texas because at the time, I don't know if this has changed, I didn't look into it, it might still be the same. She said to join the Bar Association, which is what like certifies you to practice law, I suppose. Just having a law degree in itself doesn't allow you to practice law. You have to join the bar organization or something. Anyways, Texas Bar, and every state has one. You have to believe in God. And she was like, she's like, I could pass any test. I would always pass the test. I would do better on the test than anybody else that I'm competing against. She said, so everything in my life, I passed the test, I could get the thing. She said, but then when it came to becoming a lawyer, to join the bar, I had to say I believe in God. And she's like, and I won't do that. So I'm not going to be a lawyer, I suppose. She's like, if there was a test and I could do that, give me the test, I'll ace it. She's like, but they say you have to believe in God. And she said no lawyer would support her to argue the case that this is an unfair thing because all the lawyers were part of the Bar Association where they have to believe in God. So already, by definition, all the lawyers are already on the side of God. That's kind of fucked up, actually. You start to see how the system actually, it's not really a free system. It's rigged.
And it's very serious. We are going to make this dishonesty ring throughout the land so that everybody will see it and hear it.
If there is a dishonesty, would you be honest in partaking of the dishonesty and expect these young people who are at the point of life where they want to make a decision, you expect them to follow someone who is following the dishonest part of Christianity?
I am going to associate myself with the money.
Thank you.
And with that money, I'm going to say to the young people, all right, we'll show you then that we can get a...
See, now look at the person who would be like, oh yeah, see, you're in it for the money. She's like, no, I'm not in it for the money, but you know what? You know what you have to have in this world to have any effect? Money. And the whole system is rigged against anybody who wants to change it in any fundamental way so that it's actually best for everybody. So if you don't accumulate money, guess what? You're fucked and you have no power in this world. So it's funny because you can interpret it as, see, she's greedy like all of them. It's like, okay, so are you saying the churches are fucked then? Is that what you're saying? Are you saying that because they do it the money way, are you admitting that they're corrupt then? Is that what you're saying? And then you're trying to say like, well, you should play by a more ideal set of rules. So it's like, but these are the rules. And if I don't play by these rules, I lose. So that's not an indictment of her. That's an indictment of the system itself. That if you don't declare yourself a religion and get the tax breaks, you can't compete.
Seminary, and you can join the seminary and you...
Because think about it. She wants to spread atheism. So she's competing against the other religions. They have the tax breaks. She'll always lose. Do you see? Like, it's just one example.
Too can be draft exempt.
There's something I've been wanting to ask Dr. Bauman. I wonder if I might now.
Interesting. I'm going to go back because I missed that part before.
Join the seminary and you too can be drafted. We'll show...
Thank you.
And with that money, I'm going to say to the young people, all right, we'll show you then that we can get a seminary and you can join the seminary and you too can be draft exempt.
Aha. See? You too can be draft exempt. So, like, the system's not going to like that. Because who is the people who's most likely going to be against the war? People who fucking, at some level, are thinking past the normal bullshit. Right now, the Christians will be like, yeah, for the war, let's go fight them Muslims. Let's get them. For Jesus, bring on Gog and Magog. And everyone else who doesn't believe all that bullshit is like, dude, this is crazy. I don't want to do that. I don't want to fucking go fight Muslims in Iran? Like, what are you talking about? I object. And they're like, do you believe in God? No. So what's the grounds of your objection exactly? I'm like, I don't like it. I don't think it's good. It's not best. They're like, well, you got to believe in God. If you say you believe in God, then you can get the objection. You can get the status. So if she can declare atheism a religion, then she could say, I have a religious objection to the draft. And then she would say to other people, you could literally come to the atheist seminary, you could declare yourself a religious atheist, and then you can have the protections of religion. That's not her fault. She's like, that's the system.
Something I've been wanting to ask Dr. Bauman, I wonder if I might now. I'm curious about who you think is winning right now in the country. Are we becoming more or less religious?
What do you mean by it? If you mean the institution, the smell of death is everywhere, and I think that's the work of God himself, who's going to kill it off and renew it.
Pretty soon you'll move to the position of atheism and you'll be calling it Methodism. Let me ask you a question. There are 11 million Methodists, more or less, in the United States. I hear various statistics because you all report in a very funny way.
Yeah. So do the atheists.
If those 11, we don't have an opportunity to report. If those 11 million Methodists would all contact President Nixon tomorrow and say, we would like to withdraw from the war in Vietnam, would we be able to do it?
How many?
If those 11 million Methodists, remember, you're organized. You have grassroots in every city. You have money. You have a voice. You have a voice on television, radio, and newspapers. You have it in the pulpit. You are the grassroots organization in America. Now, if every one of those 11 million Methodists would say tomorrow, it's enough of this now. From here on, the Negro is integrated. Would he be integrated?
Can you get the 12 million atheists to agree on anything?
What a fucking weasel, dude. Answer the question. She's basically saying, like, if you give a shit, you could organize all the Methodists, and you guys, as Methodists, could go and you have political power. So the fact that you're not doing it means you're allowing all this to happen. And now he's going to say, like, well, could you get all the atheists to agree? She's like, well, I can't fucking run ads on TV, but if I could, fuck yeah, I would.
Providing I get a voice to speak to them, yes.
Well,
I hope you guys who are still here in the chat, or maybe you're watching this a replay, you're getting a lesson here about how we change the system.
It's
as simple as them.
Atheists to agree on anything.
Providing I get a voice to speak to them, yes.
Well, this is
it's as simple as this.
I gather you don't have that.
He's like basically trying to, ridicule her. Like, oh, you think you're so high and mighty, you can just get everyone to agree. Oh, who the fuck do you think you are?
Authority.
This is a sign of supreme human confidence, it seems to me, that if you speak, 12 million people will agree with what you're saying.
What I'm saying is this.
See, but she's clever. She's not just saying that flippantly, like, because she thinks she's so great. Like, I don't see a bunch of arrogance coming from her. And we'll listen to her explain her point, but like, how can this guy sit here after she says this and not be like, fuck, maybe I should dedicate the rest of my life or however long it takes to pull us out of the Vietnam War and get black people to be integrated and all this other stuff.
We are unable.
Like what's his excuse going to be then after this?
To contact those persons who are with us in respect to religion. We are consistently unable to contact.
But I'm still in.
Now, that might sound silly, right? That was my initial reaction when she said that, because I'm thinking in the world of the internet, right? But this is back in the world where it's the 1960s. You had television, radio, and like newspapers and magazines. How else are you going to contact all these people around the country that kind of are out there, but you don't know who they are, you don't know where they live? You got to get on the radio. If you had a program, like, you could be speaking where you could then identify them and organize them. The Methodists are allowed to do that. The Catholics were allowed to do that. The Christians, et cetera, were allowed to do that. The FCC, the communications, federal, whatever, they would allow that. But they telling her, no, you, because you're atheist or whatever the argument is. I haven't read the court cases yet. I'm interested in doing that later, or probably on another time. But what I'm saying is, they wouldn't let her do that. They're saying, like, no, you're not allowed to come on buy radio time or TV time or whatever and say these things. Why? Because they know that group of people that she would be talking to would present a political threat to the interests at the time. And that's why she's telling this guy, like, I'm giving you a good idea here, dude. Do you want to stop the Vietnam War or do you not? Because if you did, you'd be out there fucking organizing all these people and getting... That's what they want to talk about Martin Luther King Jr. That's what the fuck he did. So they want to like jerk off on his memory, but then not like be like, hey, maybe I should be like putting my life on the line. But you know what happened to him, so this guy's just a fucking coward.
Interested, if you could contact them, are you telling me that you could persuade them to follow your particular point of view on anything?
No, I'm not saying that. I am saying that for instance, if I could pose a problem to them in relationship to religion, I know what they would say in relationship to that particular thing. For instance, the necessity for separation of church and state. I think that there would be no argument in relationship to that from the atheist community. I think that we would be almost monolithic in certain areas. In certain other areas, we would be not, because, for instance, atheists are found most in the Republican Party in America.
Well, you have answered my question. On certain questions, the 12 million Methodists would be primarily monolithic. There are certain issues we would agree on.
But Jesus Christ is the Prince of Peace.
But an issue such as a specific
war in Vietnam,
and a specific time, one of the problems that Christians have is that Christ's only absolute...
See, now he's trying to weasel out of the responsibility she just put on him.
One of the problems that Christians have is that Christ's only absolute teaching was the law of love, absolute agape love.
And where
then I don't want to make her point for her, but it's obvious what's the answer to that.
Absolute teaching was the law of love, absolute agape love.
And we're really wailing them with love over in Vietnam.
And what this means in a specific situation, you will never get 12 million Christians to agree on.
So then what's the value of it? If you're saying the absolute truth from the supreme being, which is codified in the Bible, can't be applied universally by everybody in specific circumstances, then it's nothing more than a touchy-feely idea that has no practical fucking value in this world. And yet you want to argue, well, there has to be a God, because otherwise where would we get our objective sense of morality from? Well, if you can't apply the morality in any specific circumstances, what's the fucking point? And that's I made this elsewhere too. It's like, we can't agree on what's best. So that's why we need God to tell us what's best. Okay, here's what God says. Well, I don't agree with that interpretation of what God's saying. Yes, I also don't agree, and I don't agree either. Oh, we all agree? No, we all disagree with each other too. So how did that solve the problem? So then why even argue with her? Because she's saying we should have a world that's based on harmony. And he's like, well, no, we have to believe in Jesus because I believe Jesus. It's like, right, you're not actually interested in this world. Like when she says the now, I don't think she means it in a fucking hippy-dippy spiritual, the power of now bullshit. I think she means like what's going on right now in reality, like currently that we're living through in this moment of time. Like that's where we should be applying ourselves in terms of our ethics, morality, judgments, decisions, and so forth. And he's like, oh wait, you're interested in like this reality, like right now? Like, who gives a shit, dude? Like, I'm going to heaven later. Fuck this place. That's essentially what the theist and atheist mindset currently, anyways, is like, nah, dude, like, you know, the atheist mindset now is, I'm just trying to live as long as I can for them to invent those old computers that'll make me live forever and cure my diseases, and I'll be like a 19-year-old boy again, like a young man, whippersnapping, with a robot body. Like, they're just waiting for that God to come. So it's the same thing. Just let everything go to shit. Let's suck all the resources out of the earth we possibly can and feed them to the AI God and pray, prompt. Make me a super genius, robot, hybrid, 19-year-old with a 12-inch dick, you know, and don't make any mistakes, Claude. Do it right now. That's what they're waiting for while we just fucking destroy the earth.
It's part of the problem that we have. What does it mean to love in a specific situation?
It's also called a cop-out.
Let's get back out into the audience.
It's a
this
cop-out.
gentleman, no, right there.
Relate the cause of all these wrongdoings of man to Christianity. You sound more like a reformer for the church than against it.
If actually the church was doing even 3% of what they claimed that they were doing, I would be knocking at the door of the church to get in. But they do not. They are the most gross kind of hypocrites
Is that the
in
fault
relationship to this.
of Christianity or of the people?
What the church does constantly, particularly and we're back to this again, the liberal and progressive church, is to put up a good verbal mouth.
See, another thing too, I was just thinking of this context, like, she's responding to the reality of her time. And in that context, I would say atheism was quite relevant because everybody believed in God. They were at war with Vietnam, apparently, according to what she's saying. This is during the Vietnam War. And religion clearly wasn't solving that problem. So being an atheist was like going outside of the normal sort of justifications for everything and saying, like, why are we doing all this crazy shit to each other? Like, let's go beyond that. Today, in our current reality, being an atheist doesn't fucking mean anything anymore. Atheists now are just people who like don't like traditional religion. You know, it's like it doesn't have the same. She clearly feels a sense of responsibility to reality. And I'm not saying there are zero atheists alive that don't, but I think the vast presentation of atheism online, anyways, today is you just want to jerk off and smoke weed, you know, and like get off on hating Christians and how retarded and stupid they are because you're probably transgender or something. I don't know. Like, I know I'm exaggerating, but like the atheists today, they don't actually care about any solution in reality because they believe science is the answer. Like, you never heard her say the word science, I don't think, even one time. Science, atheists today are just basically like, it's just that sort of gotcha, making, like, owning the Christians. Oh, so dumb. Like, that's not my starting point. My starting point isn't, I just think Christians are so dumb and like, oh, they should just believe in science. I'm like, hey guys, we're still doing wars. People can't pay their bills when they have 3 and 4 fucking jobs now. They can't afford homes. Gen Z is totally fucked. And I'm trying to find a way to get people to wake up. And so when I'm talking about religion, that's why I'm also including atheism into all of it now. I'm not talking about her personally, but just now what it's become is just like, it's just another form of accepting the system as it is. There's no actual sense of self-responsibility towards this reality.
But when you actually get into it and you see where the human problems are, it's the churches who are holding back the free education, the liberation of the human mind, the liberation of culture, the liberation of our society. This is the anti-human.
We're nearly out of time. We've just got time for Dr. Bauman to say one more thing. You haven't had a chance.
Typical man interrupting the woman so the man can talk and have the last word.
If I have only 10 seconds, I would say that God loves Mrs. O'Hare, God loves all of us who are here, and that ultimately, God...
She's like, Dad, shut the fuck up. Look at that face. She's like, bro, cut it with your bullshit.
Who are here, and that ultimately, God is going to be able to express the kind of love that he intended for all of us to have if we'll just be open to one another, as one of the questioners was suggesting earlier.
Dude, what up? Yeah. I mean, all of that sounds really nice, what he said. Okay, let's make that practically real then. Unite all the Methodists. Get them to stop the war. And he's like, well, but I can't get them to agree. It's like, yeah, because you're fucking weak and you don't want to take the responsibility to do it. What can I say? All right. Yeah. I'm not going to go on and on after that. I don't know what you guys think, but that was just like so fascinating to me. I love finding this kind of stuff, because I'm not there looking for answers because I already fucking know the answers. I'm just saying it's fun to like see in history, in the past, when people were really thinking and you see like a new context for things. It only makes my understanding of what I know as the solution like even stronger. Like there's nothing ever that makes me feel like, oh, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not about creating a world that's best for all. Maybe it's not about us individually taking responsibility for our lives and our thoughts and our feelings and our emotions and finding out what we're accepting within ourselves that's not best for all. Maybe it's not really about that. Like, can you even logically disprove that? Is it even possible? If what I'm saying isn't the answer, then what the fuck is the answer? And there's nothing you have to believe to see the common sense in what I was just saying. I'm not asking anybody to believe anything. If there's anything you find within the things I promote, like Destiny or Bernard or any of that kind of stuff, where you're like, well, I don't know about that. I don't know if I want to believe that. Don't fucking believe it. Just listen to what it's saying. Look at the common sense of it. I don't have to believe Henry David Thoreau was a real person. I don't know. Maybe he's made up. Who knows? But what did this character of Henry David Thoreau say? Let me read what he says. Oh, that makes sense. I can agree with that. Oh, that doesn't make sense. I don't agree with that. Who cares? I don't have to believe in Henry. And if he says some stuff that makes sense, I don't go, oh my God, Henry David Thoreau, he is my new savior. I am worshiping him. No, he just said something that made fucking sense. And now from what I can accept within that, now have a responsibility to live that out. And I think that was one thing Jordan Peterson said really well, which he said, what is belief? And he's like, and I'm using the word that he's using. I wouldn't use the word belief, but from his perspective, saying I believe in God, just to say it as a belief you have is kind of irrelevant. If the belief isn't lining up with what you actually do and live in this world, believing in God is pretty meaningless. So I think belief in itself is irrelevant because it's tying into the fact that you're trying to assume some things you can't prove. I don't have to assume anything. I can see that there's cause and effect. And I can see that if I don't consider the effect of what I'm doing, and I just only go based on whether it benefits me, there could be negative side effects for others. Let me reverse it for a second. Would you want someone else to act that way? If they got a positive benefit and your child died? Of course not. So why would you think like that? Why would you want all 8 billion people why would you not want them to think like, hey, maybe I should consider if what I'm doing is actually best for everyone else, not just myself? Like, that's common sense. That's no belief required. All right, everybody. I'll just say bye to the chat one last time. Cool seeing everybody here. And I will upload this probably in a few days because I still have some backlog I gotta get uploaded. But just a quick thing, I think I probably will stream tomorrow. I'm definitely not streaming on Sunday nights. There's just too much stuff going on. I could physically do it, but I know the group and everybody not that I necessarily have to do it only for the people that are already in our group, but it's also a nice day to rest. It's the Lord's day. He commanded it to be a day of rest. But I already do the podcast that day, and a bunch of other stuff. And I want to be able to have some nights where, I'm not just coming back to the house at midnight and hanging out with the kids. I want to be able to spend some time with them and do some things, just hanging out in the evening and so forth. So I'm just deciding that right now, or for now. I won't be live streaming on Sundays typically. If I change that, I'll make an announcement or post about it. But just in case anyone's wondering what to expect, and they're not just waiting on my announcements, if you're enjoying this and you're liking, participating in the live stream when it's live, generally speaking, I'll be doing these on probably Monday through Saturday, and that might change over time. But just to be clear, I'm not going to be doing it on Sundays. Okay. All right, everybody. Good night in the chat, and I'll see you next time.